All right, good morning. We'll now call the August 28th, 2024 San Diego County Board of Supervisors Land Use Meeting and Flood Control District Meeting to order. I'll turn it over to our clerk for the roll call.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond. Here. Vice Chair Lawson Reamer. And Chairwoman Vargas.
Vargas here. I'm going to hand it over to, let's see, we'll now proceed with non-agenda public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. The only action that the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. According to the board's rules and procedure, Rule 4A, public speakers that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments. As a reminder, according to the board's rules, audience members shall not whistle, clap, stomp feet, or anything that disrupts the proceedings. To better facilitate the meeting, we will have 5 speakers in person, 5 speakers via phone, and the rest of non-agenda public communication will be heard at the close of today's meeting. I'll now turn it over to the clerk for ask for the speakers to come forward. Please.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 30 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. 9 individuals in person and 21 requesting to speak by phone. For those that have requested to speak by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I would like to invite forward the first 3 individuals, Michael Brando, Robert Gurman, and I believe it's Parithia Flanagan. Thank you. You have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please start by stating your name for the record.
Michael, I want to honor the work of Giorgio Carrillo. He was a 38-year-old man who passed on July 18th, 2024. He was originally from New Jersey, and he was here in San Diego. Our ships passed by each other several times in this very room. He gave a phenomenal speech on August 31st, 2021, when this board, Tara, including you, were spreading medical misinformation, and you were threatening, bullying, harassing, and terrorizing people who have done things like this and then have suffered the consequences of that decision. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on Giorgio, because this all stems from the year of 2020. The year of seeing clearly. Giorgio has a wonderful speech on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and put in the search engine Wonderland, Giorgio Carrillo, he was a magnificent speaker. And he had the courage of heart to speak out about the pharmaceutical, medical, industrial complex and the harm they're doing. And that's something that's always facilitated here. But the point is, I want to emphasize is this young man was a brilliant speaker. It's an hour speech, and it may seem like, oh, I don't want to sit for an hour and listen to this guy. But once you start listening to him, he really reveals the backstory of his experience. And I want to end on this, that in spite of all the hullabaloo that goes on here and elsewhere, goodness, truth, and beauty, those are the things that endure. And I want to say, may God's radiant light shine upon you, Giorgio.
Robert Gurman. It is not an experiment. The FAA is very clear and has been for decades. Federally funded and regulated airports do not allow hangars to be used as residences. Aircraft hangar homes are meant to be used for overnight and/or resting periods for aircrew and not as a permanent or even temporary residence. The challenges of building a live-work hangar home all stem around local zoning codes. County owns the land, should be very clear. But as always, political connections, donations, influence decision makers at San Diego County Regional Airport Authority. I have tons of time left and I'm going to use every bit of it. Please watch the video. I put captions on there so that you can multitask if you want and look at it later. But Gillespie is always walking and sometimes crosses a very, very fine line on regulations and standard operating procedures on how they tax or how they spend our tax money and use our land. And I know that there's a professional career commercial rated pilot on the board. And so this is not new to him, but it might be new to everybody else because there is no transparency at San Diego County airports. And that was one of the promises that was made by the board, the new board. And so hopefully we can keep working on that. And so I got another 6 seconds. Are there any questions? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Call Perita Javier and Cesar Javier as well. You can go ahead and line up on the arrows. You may begin your comments.
Honorable San Diego County Board of Supervisors, I'm Dorothea Flanagan of Gopher Canyon in the Bonsall Community Planning District area. I'm not here to collect a reward for my free 44 years doing beautification and cleanup, and it is pristine and natural. I'm asking for the removal of the abusive rumble strip that was installed on the center line of our road without notification of any property owners, which is illegal, whose properties attached to it. And I'm one of these people. Our road is not a freeway nor a state or county designated numbered highway. This rumble noise projects for 800 feet, and it goes boom, and it depends on how long they ride it for fun. I'll make a long story short. Morgan, who was on the Bonsall Community Planning Board, got together quietly, unknown to all of us 550 people that live in that 4.5-mile canyon, and decided they were going to help the drunks stay on the road by putting a big rumble strip in the middle of the road, not on the sides, something very unique that the traffic department thought up, and they don't care what it does to us all night. I had to move out of my master bedroom to the back of my home, and my house is 600 feet from it on a steep canyon slope that magnifies sound like an amphitheater. I am respectfully asking you, since there's no oversight out there what they do, to remove the...
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. I am Purita.
She is a victim of toxicity next door. Go here. Partly, she will read a letter to the owner next door.
With our prayers, faith in goodwill, friendship, and spirit of neighborhood, we plead to you for urgent favorable action to ease and stop your ceramic, pottery, and kiln operations, and collectively refocus our efforts in accord with the city action plans for zero carbonization to address global warming and climate change. We all have the right to live a life free in a clean and safe area, designated residential area called home. We still have time. Please do not let us leave our home.
Cesar Javier, the owner said, everybody pollutes the city. The city is polluted. Go to the countryside for your clean air. The police who came to investigate.
Sir, you can't yield, she can't, under the board's rules and procedures, she cannot yield her time to you. So you'll have your own separate 2 minutes, but you're speaking during her 2 minutes. You cannot do that. So if she's done with her comments, so she has 11 seconds left. Okay.
She will continue because I have to guide her. I'm sorry.
Okay, her time's up, so you'll have your 2 minutes now.
APCD.
I'm sorry, ma'am, your time's up, so we'll go to...
This is a 40 years issue.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start your
issue.
time now. Thank you.
Excuse me. I am confused of the ruling. Sir, could you allow me to start, please?
So he's going to give you the 2 minutes to start again so that you can do your part as well. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, go ahead. That's what he said. Go ahead.
This is a 40 years community issue, land use issue, environment issue, public safety issue, all issues regarding human survival. Clean air, please listen. LUS, or the Land Use Environmental Group of Air Pollution Control District, says, oh, we are different from the county LUS. We are different from the blue of the city, you know, the equivalent, land use building group. They came to investigate, and they said to us, oh, we came there 3 times, midnight when you called us. They came, and their solution was olfaction. They used their nose, but never did the technical reading to determine the threshold or level of toxicity. Why? City code enforcement could go in and out, but they cannot investigate because the owner has the permit. Compliance of Air Pollution Control District, including the county, says, oh, better go to the Air Pollution Control District because this is their jurisdiction. They came to us. They did not do the reading because they need warrant to enter property. When in fact, when they do investigation of big businesses like wastewater treatment, oh my God, they come and go. They take their snack. They have all the time to do the research and study. Why can't they not do the same to our ceramics issue next door? This, according to the Center of Disease Control and Protection, says kilns or ceramics kiln emits toxicity, period.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And pardon us.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, we'll be hearing from the first 5 callers, and the remaining of the callers will be here at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted, and then you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Hello, my name is Sandra, and I want to ask why Animal Services is allowing the conditions animals are enduring on Artesian Road to continue. Animals are being abused and neglected on that property. Horses are standing, eating, and dying in their own waste. Like the video I saw of a poor skeletal dying horse that broke my heart. It was shocking and amazing how anyone could ever say that was okay. The two individuals who live on the property and are responsible for the horses, dogs, and other animals are unfit, uncaring, and have shown violent, threatening stances toward those who have approached the property merely to ask about the welfare of the animals, including news media. I am appalled and at the animal services and that they've claimed that there is no problem with the care and the life conditions of those poor animals. Perhaps we need some new guidelines and new hires for animal services so that our local animals can be protected from conditions such as exist on Artesian Road. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to the next caller.
Hey, it's Jim. You know, there's been a lot of talk about financial reparations for the atrocities of slavery that took place long before we were born to people long, long gone. No, not the infamous Egyptian slavery, nor those found in ancient China, Babylonia, Persia, ancient Greece, ancient and present India, the Roman Empire, and the countless children being trafficked right now. But rather the slavery which befell certain black groups in the early Americas before the establishment of the Constitution and bloody Civil War could ultimately be the first to bring life and liberty to all men and women in their pursuit of happiness. Though it does appear that the virtue signaling will win out and the folks being afraid of being called racist will go silent, I thought of offering something outside of the box. For those people wanting to receive reparations, let's consider two additional points. A, other ways to get free money or free stuff. And B, what people can actually do to earn money. For the former, there are many places to obtain free stuff. One, first off, there are government grants, so that may take some work, a lot of forms. Number two, you can run up a credit card and then claim bankruptcy. Number three, free stuff is also available in certain progressive cities where shoplifting under $90 is permitted. Number four, you can cross the border as an illegal alien and then get free health care and travel. Number five, you can book a hotel and pack away all the free stuff you can, such as toilet paper and pens. Number six, you can go to friends, borrow money, and then claim emotional distress if they ask for it back. Number seven, finally available is insider trading profits, but you have to be a government public servant. For the latter, ways to earn money include, number one, get a job. Number two, start a business and create a value-added product or service that supports other people's needs and well-being. Yes, earning money may even bring a high level of self-esteem that no victim or slave would ever know or understand. Thanks.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I am calling because I believe the Public Safety Group and the Department of Animal Services, Steve Lehon, and Kathleen Flannery is aiding and abetting felony criminal animal cruelty. Steve Lehon has no background in animal welfare, let alone horses. He is making statements that are not true about the horses on Artesian Road. Horses on Artesian Road continue to be abused and neglected. The county board supervisor are failing our animals. Animals are suffering, and the county supervisors are doing nothing. When is the county of San Diego County going to help animals that are suffering in our district? And I suspect Deborah Barkley, that owns the horses, and Craig Network, that has $1 billion contract with the city for pure water, is probably why Deborah Barkley is not being prosecuted. I would like someone to look into that, and I want to call back. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the next caller.
Yes, good morning. My name is Michael Fujimori. I'm calling to speak about the horses and the other animals that live on the property on Artesian Road. I'm asking that the supervisors, in particular, Supervisor Reamer, and the Animal Services Department please conduct an investigation as to why there has been nothing done about the abuse and neglect of these suffering animals. There has been documentation that there is an ongoing pattern of animal abuse and cruelty occurring regularly at this property. As the temperatures continue to get hotter, I'm asking that you immediately remove the animals and relocate them to an animal sanctuary for their safety and well-being. Also, supervisors, I also believe that you're aiding and abetting animal cruelty by not holding animal services or the public safety group accountable. Please save these poor animals. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll go to our fifth and final caller. Sandra, it is your turn to speak. You might be muted.
I already spoke.
Oh.
I already spoke. I was the first one.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Annie Abram, in regards to the artesian horses.
Thank you. Go ahead and begin your comments.
Thank you. Good morning, County Board of Supervisors. Today we're calling in regards to the artesian horses. Condolences for those families who lost family members. However, we cannot, as human beings, ignore the fact that all life matter. In these situations, these horses are trashed by the side of the road on Artesian Road. And Deborah, having contracts with the city, is being avoided from being held accountable. This is unacceptable. And when we do not hold her accountable and accept that the county animal control undermine and say everything is all right, how is this acceptable? Would we do this to a dog, the dog that would be on the side of the road, locked up and dying, suffering from heat, food deprivation, water deprivation? These are crimes. County of Supervisors, we need you, we urge you to hold them accountable. These people from the county animal control are not doing their job. These animals need to be transferred to animal sanctuary, including the dog. Deborah is not capable and also is a criminal. She is out for money and you are aiding her. This is not acceptable behavior. We would not do this to our dogs, our children. Why are we doing it to horses? They do not belong in that trashy little side of the walk, the road, in between the grass where they see and they get teased, yet they cannot even touch it. They have to eat their feces and die in suffering in the heat. These are unacceptable behaviors. Please, we urge you, we have you to speak up for these animals. You are our leader as a supervisor.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. And again, all remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Supervisor Desmond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to read into the record because we're getting a lot of phone calls about, and this isn't an agendized item, but just for the record, staff has been working with, going out to this ranch and meeting with people and the activists that have been calling in. They've had 5 meetings, both in person and virtual, between May 9th and August 9th. They spent 6 hours with individuals in these meetings. They responded to over 31 emails between August 19th and August 8th. In March of 2023, there was a horse death. Staff went out on that. They observed that, unfortunately, this horse died, but there was no abuse or no neglect. In January of 2024, staff went out on another call because the horse died. The horse died from colic. Additionally, on July 11th, July 20th, July 31st, August 2nd, August 3rd, August 7th, August 8th, August 10th, As part of the Department of Animal Services routine patrol, they observed the property from Artesian Road from the trail from about 50 yards away from the property, which affords a very good view of the ranch, and no issues with the ranch or the horses were observed by the officers. If they do find something wrong, they definitely will, I'm sure, act upon it, but it's not that staff has not been responsive. It's not that we haven't been doing and going out and checking. We will continue that, and it's false to say we're not doing anything about it. Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the statement of proceeding minutes for the Board of Supervisors Land Use meeting July 17, 2024, Flood Control District meeting July 17, 2024. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Okay, we have a motion and a second. See no discussion, please vote.
And Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay. We will now proceed with the formation of our consent calendar, items 1 through 8 and FL01. Public speakers will be able to comment on the consent calendar after supervisors pull the items they would like for discussion. Would any of my colleagues like to pull any item for discussion? Supervisor Anderson? Supervisor Montgomery Stat?
No, and I'll move the consent agenda.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond?
No comments, nothing to pull, and I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lawson-Remer?
Yeah, I have comments on one item. So this is item 8 on broadband. So I think we have technical staff in case there's any questions. Are we okay? Go ahead. Okay, sorry. So I just wanted to clarify, I'd received some questions from the community. So I wanted to make sure it was clear on recommendation 2 that 45 days is intended to mean 45 calendar days. So that was just for the record. It says 45 days, clarifying it means 45 calendar days. That was the intent. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. And yeah, I just wanted to uplift this work. I really appreciate all the partnership of the folks that we've been working with and the stakeholders to bring this forward. You know, it's something that Supervisor Anderson has mentioned many times as well, is the broadband deserts and the lack of digital access in many parts of San Diego County, and the fact that this lack of access is disproportionately concentrated in low-income communities and our rural and unincorporated communities. And how important it is that in our increasingly interdependent world that people do have access to reliable broadband and technology. You know, I think we all know how difficult it can be to complete simple tasks for work or for school if you can't get online. So that's why I brought this. I appreciate the work of so many stakeholders and all of your feedback. So and the team has been great. Thanks.
All right, just for clarification, I'm going to ask legal counsel. There doesn't have to be any amendments or anything like that, right? It's just clarifying for the record that it's 45 working days.
That's accurate.
Okay.
45 calendar days.
45 calendar
days. That's the default whenever it says days.
All right, it's on the record. Okay. All right. Supervisor Montgomery.
Just a brief I do have a brief comment on FL1. I just want to commend staff and just say I understand the importance of the continued effort to complete these preventative efforts. Each time the authorization for the continuance of ongoing emergency work is presented, I'm reminded of the resilience of the Casa de Oro community that was displayed during the floods that we had this year, and I'm committed to doing everything that we can to finish that job that we started. Doing this type of preventative work is part of the reason why it was bad, but it really could have been worse. So I just wanted to point that out and let staff know I appreciate the work.
So I just wanted to thank the team on item number 8, also related to the digital broadband work that's being done, particularly around really thinking about digital equity and having every household have affordable access to the internet is very, very crucial. Like to make sure that as we're looking at infrastructure investments, that we're looking at the unincorporated areas of Spring Valley and East Otay Mesa, as there's a great need in those communities. And again, thank you to the team. Thank you for applying for the grant. I think the more we do this, the more we're able to be innovative in partnership with different systems across the region. So appreciate that work. And with that, I will turn it over to public comment.
Thank you, Chairman Vargas. We have 10 total requests to speak on items on the consent calendar. 6 individuals requesting in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. For any individuals that have requested to speak on items on the consent calendar via phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak. I would like to invite forward the following individuals: Catherine Rhodes, Jim Whalen, and Alberto Velasquez. You can come forward in any order, line up on the arrows, and then I'll call the remaining speakers once we get through these first 3 speakers.
Hello, good morning. My name is Alberto Velasquez, Government Affairs Manager with Cox Communications. I'm here to speak in support of item 8. Thank you to county staff for working with Cox Communications and using our feedback to help craft this first step in streamlining broadband permitting and help make it easier to expand broadband to the residents we all serve. Very shortly, federal funds, some through the BEAD program, will become available to compete for grants to build in underserved and unserved areas in our region. These funds do come with timeline requirements that state that once grants are awarded, they must be completed within 18 months or 24 months if the project needs a CEQA exemption. The item before you will help give certainty as we evaluate where to apply for those grants and could give us flexibility in adding more locations to apply for. We are currently averaging 60 days for new permits, and the ceiling of 45 days is a good improvement. We are also excited for the proposed pilot program and liaison and look forward to continuing to work with county staff to move that forward. This has been a team effort. Thank you to all the stakeholders that worked to make this happen, some of which are here today and will also be speaking. Thank you to the board for bringing this forward, and thanks again to the staff that worked with us to make this good step happen today. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Vargas, members of the Board of Supervisors. Jim Whalen, J. Whalen Associates, here on behalf of VTOL, who is item 6. The only reason I wanted to come up and talk to you is because this is how you do batteries safely. And I wanted to offer the services of VTOL, who are the owners of the Ocotillo Solar Project, for any technical expertise you might need, and thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as our next speakers coming up, I'll call the remaining in-person speakers, Victor and allegedly Audra. You may line up on the arrows.
Hello, Catherine Rhodes, and I'm speaking on number 3, the Tijuana River Valley. I have a solution for you. Please listen. My solution is to invite Kamala Harris and her other person, I forgot his name, to the border to declare the Tijuana River an EPA Superfund site. So what does the EPA Superfund site designation do to you? It gives you cash. It streamlines the process. If you do this, the governor will have to declare a state of emergency, and then you could get the federal. So this is a way to basically go over the governor's head and talk to the EPA and have them designate it as a problem. And at that time, she could even have the Border Patrol come up there and say, let's get the Border Patrol agents that we need so we could, have the border. And she could actually go there and say, these are solutions that she's bringing forward. An EPA Superfund site would be perfect for you, but somebody has to do something. You guys at the county have to actually do something. I can't do anything about it. I talked to the EPA paper and they said, yeah, that kind of sounds good, like a good idea. But, it's just me trying to put this out. So if somebody could call her, that would be great. The other thing with the Tijuana River, in the olden days, all the maps used to show all the faults in the Tijuana River that go there. You could actually see faults all over the place. And when you put your infrastructure, concrete, on an active fault, it moves a little, and then it breaks. And you're saying, why is it breaking all the time? It's because instead of so this is my thing is, please try to actually do fault investigations. You don't have to do fault investigations because it's not in an area where you have to do it. And so everybody assumes that it's not active when it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Vargas, members of the board, acting CAO Harbert. It's very good to see you this morning. My name is Victor Avina with Falcon Strategies. I'm here on behalf of AT&T. I stand in support of item number 8 and really want to thank Vice Chair Lawson Reamer for her commitment to this very important issue. You all have mentioned in your comments today and in previous board meetings the importance of broadband deployment for increased opportunity, economic mobility, education, our health and well-being. It is just simply very critical in our modern world. I want to first thank you and the county for having an annual permit at all. It makes a huge difference, and you guys are ahead of a lot of other munis in this area. It reduces staff time required to process permits, reduces lengthy delays in deployment, increases process efficiency, and ultimately increases connectivity for all of the users that we all serve collectively. I thank the Vice Chair for her clarification on that 45 calendar days. That was a substantial difference in our view, and I hear from my friend Mr. Morali Pasumarti that the county is averaging 43 days. So really appreciate the county's hard work in this area, the fact that we are up here frequently speaking to this issue, the fact that you have voted on this issue in previous board letters shows this board's commitment to this issue in deploying broadband. So we thank you for that. We see that a lot of the substantive and important work is going to happen in the pilot program. AT&T is looking forward to continuing to engage with staff. They've been receptive. They've been accessible. We very much appreciate that. We appreciate your commitment in this joint effort to deploy more broadband in the County of San Diego. Thanks very much.
My person uses the name Audra. So with this contract for the emergency power generators, and you're talking about unplanned outages, that's something that we should be concerned about with an invasion happening on our border and nefarious people coming in and wanting to affect the infrastructure. It's setting us up for some pretty bad times, but nobody wants to recognize that. And I'm curious because like we're banning generators, so it's like, you know, because we can't have gas and oil. So it's just, I wonder if that fits into your climate action plan. And then for the Tijuana River Valley, you should be listening to what Catherine Rhodes says. I'm surprised that with a super fund being available, that you guys wouldn't want to seek funds. You guys love money, you always talk about your budgets. So it's, you know, sad that it's not going into that realm, but I would hope that, you know, you were just near Kamala Nora at the DNC, so you should be, you know, engaging with her to do just what she suggested, Catherine. And then when we're talking about pollutants impacting local waterways with the project 1 Green Street, you know, things like spraying Roundup in the county are going to affect that. It's poison, and we shouldn't be spraying that, and I'm sure that you're not even going to be looking for that as a pollutant. With the Ocotillo solar facility, the fact that you have to have firefighting and emergency resources for these lithium bombs is very negligent to be putting them anywhere near where people are going to be, or to use them in general. We're setting ourselves up for some really terrifying fires that cannot be put out. It'll be like hell on earth. And then with the USDA and the farming and home advisor with University of San Diego, with what's happening with the wanting to put shortages in foods, it's a wonder if they're going to affect the farmers and their ability to provide the food that's necessary to the people. And then with this broadband, there's always consequences with technology. It's actually really bad for the human body.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is Ann Riddle calling. I came to seek in consent regarding item 7, the agreement that the county will be forming with the University of California in San Diego I'm always excited when our universities are involved in providing us with information. This has to do with the Department of Agriculture. But in general, the tremendous activity that we have from our colleges and our universities regarding the research that they do has been a significant help to the public health community. And I would just quickly like to refer you to one press release from the University of California, San Diego that came out on Monday to remind us about the role that growing marijuana has on the county of San Diego. And they expressed their concern that it contributed to cannabis use, which has shown to create about 25% of their users as having cannabis use disorder. And this is a major contributor, as the press release goes on to say, to what they call workplace absenteeism, which is a vital indicator of work productivity here in the county and across the nation. And their concern is that as cannabis use increases, the amount of workplace absenteeism also increases, and with it, the problems associated with comorbidity of cannabis use with other problems that its users may experience. So I'm thankful for this relationship the county has struck with our University of California, San Diego, and I appreciate that they continue to provide press releases regarding their work with you and with others. And I would hope perhaps that the county newsletter heralds some of the...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker. Kathleen, it's your turn to speak. You may be muted. We'll come back to you.
Can I just speak now? I have to go outside. If I had more melanin, do I have to go outside? Anyway. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Okay, so I wanted to speak on the Tijuana River and Consuelo, by the way. Just wanted to touch base on that and the fact that these poor people have to put their names in for a lottery to get air purifiers in the home. It was capped off at $100,000 when our chairwoman is receiving over $41,000 a month just on her security because she's so afraid. She's so afraid of truth. And
I'm going to ask you to please stay on focus on the consent items before you
I'm focusing, Joel, but you don't like truth. You don't like truth. And you're so biased, and you hate the people coming in calling you out.
All right, so this is your first warning. If you don't say a message, I'm going to forfeit your time. Got a lot of work to do today.
We lost that call, so we'll go ahead and go to our next speaker.
She has 15 minutes left, 50 seconds.
Gambler here. I'm going to refrain from telling you to see you next Tuesday. So, shit. I don't understand why you guys don't actually, like, for example, that woman going over there. I know why Kamala won't come down there to go ahead and visit the border to go ahead and fix this problem, because that's not her agenda. Her agenda is China's agenda, which is to knock us down.
Can you please focus on the items before you, item number 1 through 8 on consent? You have a minute and 24 seconds.
Won't come down here, and why you guys won't come down, try to help us fix the problem. That's what I'm talking about. Do you understand that? I understand that you don't have the mental capability to figure that out, but that is what I'm talking about. This is referring that, why you guys will not choose to actually fix the problem and to let the problem go through. I mean, you've been working on it for 30 years. You understand. By now, you should understand that this is a thing that is done on purpose, not on accident. So I don't understand. You've been working on this for 30 years. Isn't that correct? Or are you just stoned half the time and, you know, that 30 years is like 10 minutes of actually working on it? Curiosity. No doubt? No comment? You guys are destroying California, and you're doing it willingly.
All right, we'll go to our next caller.
Hey, Paul Bold. The thing sounds like more hokey pokey. The board letter says the solar facility has been constructed and is delivering power and has been granted temporary occupancy. Final occupancy will be granted once all conditions, including entering into a fire protection services agreement, have been fulfilled. In other words, the solar facility owners just built it in June without a proper fire agreement. Glad that's only 2 months late, but this is fire season. This is not good. Solar farms have unique environmental fire risks, such as hot and sunny environments, foundation failures, and debris buildup. Fires often start in the inverters, DC combiner boxes, connectors, and cables, and are caused by electrical shorts, flying sparks, and heat buildup. Other causes include poor quality equipment, faulty installation, improperly sealed mechanisms, and compromised electrical wiring. Regular maintenance and code inspections are essential to prevent fires. It's good that this agreement is being done now. And by the way, putting housing and kitchens in fume-filled hangars next to air fuel, it's a stupid idea. Permit processes, number 8. The board letter says first that the actual timeframes for each permit may vary depending on applicant response times. That is, the county is limited in what it can do to speed things up. But then the proposal is to spend $200,000 to ensure that it will review and approval of broadband applications is 45 days or less. I'm sure the addition of 2 staffers would speed things.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippett. For many years, county residents were encouraged to install solar energy on their homes. This distributed energy was affordable, dependable, and most importantly, it did not involve foreign countries installing massive solar projects on environmentally sensitive land. These are not biodegradable. They increase the risk of fire, and they make it far less dependable for people to be able to use their own energy. So, and not to mention that many of these companies have gone belly up. They get money, green money funding, and then turn around, declare bankruptcy, and thank you very much to the taxpayers. In Italy, they've actually banned solar panels on farmland. It's really a good step in the right direction, and I hope that we will do the same thing on behalf of animals and on behalf of the environment. It makes us really environmental hypocrites to support lithium-based batteries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on the items on the consent calendar.
We will now move on to discussion. I'm sorry, we need to vote. We have a motion and a second, and no further discussion. Please vote.
And Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
All right, we will now move on to discussion number 9, on-site water, wastewater treatment systems and improper disposal of sewage, receive local agency management program, update and approve amendments to Chapter 3, Division 8 of Title 6 of the San Diego County Code of Regulatory Ordinance, CEQA exemption. I'm going to go ahead and ask for public comment. You don't need a presentation.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 14 total requests to speak, 6 individuals in person, and 8 requesting to speak by phone. I'd like to also note for the record, we did not receive any e-comments on this item. For any individual that is requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. Those in favor of this item, as your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. I'll be calling individuals in groups of 3. I'd like to invite forward the first 3 individuals, Kathleen Rhodes, Cesar Javier, and Brandon Bushnell. And you can come forward in any order.
Hello, Board of Supervisors. My name is Brandon Bushnell, and I work with the San Diego Regional Water Quality Control Board. I'd just like to commend DEHQ's hard work on this evaluation of the current LAMP and identifying areas where it did not quite meet the on-site wastewater treatment system policy that is enacted statewide by the State Water Resource Control Board, and looking for areas where they could provide more leniencies to project proponents. I think they did a great job in evaluating their current LAMP and in proposing a new revised LAMP for you to consider today. And the San Diego Water Board would strongly recommend that you adopt the resolution supporting the LAMP. Thank you.
Hello, Catherine Rhodes. Let me get this up here. And so what I wanted to say is, when I was a civil engineer, I would always, for big, huge projects, we would always try to get the county to approve it. But they said, you have to do your percolation test and all these things. And sometimes we would go do the whole entire process, spend, people would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then the county would say, no, you can't do it. And the other solution to that is having on-site wastewater treatments above ground. For example, for NTC Liberty Station, Barracks H, the City of San Diego and the California Coastal Commission said that we can have homeless on state tidelands. So what that does, it opens up everything. But the only 2 things that they had as a requirement is that you have to, have your stormwater, contained, and then you have to have an on-site wastewater disposal system for the homeless. And that's what we need. So what I wanted you guys to do is not just do the percolation test and just do the septic system, but allow people to actually have on-site wastewater treatment plants for the big projects. Like they're going to be doing at NTC Liberty Station. And so because we have the, before the city would say you can't have residential on state tidelands, Todd Gloria would say that. And I would say, no, you're totally wrong. Now we broke that barrier with Barracks H. So what we could do now is, let's say, Silver State Park, we could put all the homeless people in South County over there. It's open, it's free. We could do it, but we have to have an on-site wastewater disposal system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cesar Javier, this is a great discussion about pollution. This is a jurisdiction too, if I may say it, by the Air Pollution Control District, regional. I say again, San Diego Air Pollution Control District. And it's interesting because there is also that force coming from the county to resolve such pollution issue like this treatment plants. We have on the hearing board the same waste management issue in Carlsbad and Escondido. And the hearing board is geared towards having these businesses to comply and or abated. Ma'am Vargas and Ma'am Riemer, in our attendance at the air pollution meeting, governing board. You were absent, consistently absent. We didn't hear your voice. We didn't hear your talents to debate along with other members. It is being chaired by La Mesa Councilor Sue. And we are confused. There are two forces which are not streamlined to focus on resolving the issue of air quality for all, rich and the poor. The same issue, weird, or shall we say egregious, because our next door is emitting toxic gases, and yet there is only one attending to our crusade, the planning group.
Thank you.
Of
Thank you.
Choya's Bali.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mom, Skip, I have the documents for you. Thank you.
We'll call the speakers in opposition now. Allegedly Audra, Mark, and Consuelo. And come forward in any order.
Oh, can you restart my time? Thank you. You started at 1:50, okay. My person uses the name Audra, so unfortunately, to control the people, you have to control all resources. And that is, the United Nations plan, which you guys follow. It's your sustainability stuff to enslave the people under the guise of protecting the climate and climate change. And it's interesting that it's called the State Water Control Board, because they control the water, which means they can determine whether or not, this water is going to be able to be used, or whether people can drill for water or whatever it is. And you want to protect the groundwater and surface water from contamination. But it's funny because it's like when we're giving people back their own sewage is a way of saying that this is like providing drinking water. You can actually get to the groundwater and provide that to the people. It's living water. It's something that hasn't been, affected the way that we're putting all of these toxic chemicals into the water to pretend to give people back something that is safe. And when we spray things like Roundup and other pesticides that are affecting that, you're affecting the people's ability to have safe water. And we also have chemtrails that people want to pretend don't exist, but they are spraying toxins, heavy metals, and even DNA, different things, carbon black, etc. And that affects all of us, all of our health, but it also affects the water that we drink. And it's sad to see that, to have total control, you do have to control the resources. And that's what's happening on a massive scale, even like with the food. And, to know that you're engaged in that and you don't care just shows like whose side you're on. And it's the one from down under. His name's Satan, and that's the bidding that you're doing. And it's very sad because it's killing people.
Mark, just below your overview, it states, to address unique local geographic conditions and provide flexibility to property owners and businesses, the state OWTS policy also allows a local agency to propose local standards different from the minimum standard, statewide standards. Depending on local conditions, these alternative standards may be less restrictive than those in the state OWTS policy. So I don't like that it's less restrictive than what or could be. Now, in your case, it looks like you're beefing up some things. However, extending the expiration dates for design approvals, that might be a good thing. But this is concerning accessory dwellings. And the entire reason we have accessory dwellings is because the economy is absolute crap, intentionally, because if you see Zeitgeist is 6 minutes and 40 seconds for 17 minutes, you'll understand that. And wealth inequality, that's important and directly related to why we're having accessory dwellings. This is what third world countries would do. We're basically turning into like something just where our standard of living is being lowered. And that's not necessary. Your policy in addressing this is completely negligent. You're taking the entire wrong approach, which is have a totally corrupt government that destroys the economy, causes inflation, and makes it so people can't afford to live. And then we'll charge the middle class, who's already incredibly low. If you look at this wealth inequality in America, it's unbelievable how bad the graph is for the middle class and the lower class. And anyway, so you need to see that. You need to see Rosa Corey's video, this on YouTube. These are all YouTube titles to understand what's going on. This is all a scam, turning us into a third world country.
Okay, Consuelo, ditto to everything that the previous speakers just said. Just regarding water, and this is actually what it's all about. Just wanted to point out for the people at home, this is what it's about, the UN Agenda 21. And as far as water, like everything else, they sell a scarcity while we live in abundance. As far as drilling for water, you are water. You breathe water, you breathe it in, you breathe it out. We are made up of over 70 to 90% water. Anyways, yeah, treating the water with junk that we don't need. I mean, this is all backwards, like everything else, and I'm just gonna stop there because I don't wanna be kicked out for being off topic. I'm done.
We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be then unmuted, and you'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. And we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Hey, Gambler here. How you guys doing? The water treatment facility, us basically drinking our own pee. Is that because we decided that dams aren't important for California? Like, we shouldn't go ahead and strengthen up the dam that we have here for the water? I mean, we just released the water and all that stuff so that we could go ahead and have us drink our own urine and all that stuff. And I understand what goes in, or I'm getting the data that goes into all the processes that you take to make that happen. But why don't we just fix our dam? Why are we tearing out dams? California is a desert. And we're inviting more and more people here. Sooner or later, we're not going to have the resources to serve the people, turning us into a third world country. I wonder if some other country's agenda is to make this happen. And you guys taking the money, taking whatever, the pride, the ego, you, Jim, being able to get up on camera all the time and say shit and not do anything. I mean, it is so friggin' ridiculous. I understand that Joel, his pockets are completely lined. He doesn't give a shit about anyone here. And Nora, she rolls up the red carpet for China. The other two?
So just a reminder.
I'm still questioning about.
On the item is number 9. So if you can just stay focused and stay on topic, this is your first warning. Otherwise, I'm going to fulfill your time.
No, I thought I was on topic. Could you explain to me how I wasn't? Please? I really don't understand. Seriously, I'm asking
The
how I was
topic
off
before you
topic.
is on-site wastewater treatment systems. Has nothing to do with China or anything else. So go ahead and continue.
And yes, I was talking about that. And the reasons why we need it more so than the dams that we used to have. Like I don't understand why the switch. I think I...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here, called in to chat about item number 9, on-site wastewater treatment system. as a public health educator and someone who's always been concerned with environments, I do receive, among other press releases, one from the California State Park Department. And their recent release in August was about their watershed protection program, and they spoke about 4 different state parks where they're removing waste from their watersheds. And the one in San Diego County was the Cuyamaca Rancho State Park in Descanso. And the actual program is called the Cannabis Watershed Protection Program Program. And then the title of the press release is that this program has cleaned up illegal grows from across state parks. And regarding Cuyamaca Rancho State Park in Descanso, they removed 1,800 pounds of waste from the Sweetwater watershed. And they go on to point out how in our unincorporated backcountry, illegal marijuana grows have been a devastation for state parks and their watersheds. So 1, thank you, California State Parks, and 2, I think it's important for us to realize the negative aspects that there are involved in illegal marijuana production and grow facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, not seeing any other callers called in, that would conclude public comment on this item.
Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the presentation. Well, we didn't have a presentation, but the thanks to DEHQ and staff for coming up with this LAMP. However, I'm cautious anytime that we are updating regulations that we could impact housing any more than we already have. And my understanding is we're only receiving the report today. But I know the benefits of having a LAMP, the Local Agency Management Program, because we want the flexibility and control, local control when it comes to processing these septic permits in the unincorporated area. Most of them, if not all of them, are on septic. So I'm wondering with the LAMP, I want to make 100% clear, we're not going above and beyond any of the state requirements. Is that true? So we're just going with what we have to comply with.
That's correct, Supervisor. There's nothing in the LAMP that's more restrictive than state law.
Okay, and then I've heard from a couple of septic contractors said this is going to hurt housing production. They're moving of the setbacks and things like that, to making the setbacks even more onerous, I guess, on putting in these septic systems. Is this going to hurt housing in any way that we know of, or have a negative impact on attempting to build housing?
Through Chairwoman Vargas to Supervisor Desmond, thank you for that question. While there are some setbacks that aligned with state law, there are others that were given more flexibility. This update to the LAMP does do several things that improve the ability to build more homes. It adds ADUs, which were not previously considered in the last LAMP, so that provides more flexibility for putting ADUs out there. And it also provides some alternative density requirements, which allow for building on smaller lots with the use of some supplemental treatment, so that both of those items will increase the ability to.
So how did we work with did you work with industry and the septic providers to see what their concerns are and what challenges they are having?
We did. This was an over 2-year process. We had over 16 different stakeholder outreach sessions, and we were able to incorporate the majority of comments received from industry and stakeholders into the LAMP.
Well, I just want to make sure this is another regulation that we're updating that actually is a little bit more restrictive in some areas, particularly the setbacks that I noticed. So I just want to make sure we're still working with people, and the LAMP does give us some more flexibility, and just want to be able to use that so we can produce more housing. So with that, I guess I'll move the item. Thank you.
All right. Is there a second? I'll second it. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no other further discussion, please vote.
And Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, thank you so much for your time and the work. So the next item is item number 10, Traffic Advisory Committee and related CEQA exceptions. I'm going to go ahead and ask our team to get up here, but we are going to go ahead and turn it over to public comment, and then if any of my colleagues have questions, we can go ahead and ask the team. So I'll open it up for public comment.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We have 9 total requests to speak, 3 individuals in person and 6 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record, we did not receive any e-comments on this item. For individuals that requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now with the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals, allegedly Audra, Mark, and Consuelo. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the record.
My person uses the name Audra. So again, here we go. Controlling the people is controlling resources and different things is the only way to control the people, and you want people to not be driving. So you are de-incentivizing it by all of these things. You're constantly lowering speed limits. I mean, we use our VMT to, decide things that, are potentially pretending to save the planet when it isn't. It's all about control. That's why people should be looking into the United Nations Agenda 21. It's all in there, and it's the blueprint that you guys follow. And if people understood that this was about enslavement and not, more freedoms and all these things, then they would see exactly what's happening when you guys bring forward items like this. Because you're constantly slowing down speed limits, you're taking lanes away, doing all these things that actually would potentially and do cause more greenhouse gases that you want to, stop from existing. And they never will. I mean, just look at what happened in San Diego just recently. Like, somebody got a ticket for polluting for blowing bubbles. So, I mean, if we fart, is it going to be like, you're polluting the air, we're going to have to arrest you? I mean, it's pretty ridiculous that kind of stuff can take place. It's just showing you the climate around us and what's happening. And it's sad because we demonize all of these things like driving and having people's ability to travel. That's a right. We don't even need a driver's license. That's for doing business, commerce. But the people have been lied to. And the people believe the lies and all the constructs that have been built up around us. It's like everyone's sitting in a prison cell with the door open. And it just feels comfortable, right? They're going to give you food. It's like, come to the government. They're going to help you. No, what they're going to do is make sure that you're dead. All while pretending to save your life. Like, take this COVID injection, it's going to help you. When in reality, it's going to kill you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Okay, Mark, this talks about the Traffic Advisory Board and them reducing speed limits in certain areas and other changes to the road. Now, this is the title of an article Bill Wells, the mayor of El Cajon, is in, and where he specifically says that Sandag's new multimodal approach will reject any freeway expansion. The freeway expansions that we all paid for and that were agreed to. But now, of course, they're saying that money can be used for housing, in fact, or their trains or high-speed rail, whatever. And now, unfortunately, I didn't have time, and I can't find out of all this the page that shows Sandag's meeting. However, Nora is not only the chair here, she's the chair for Sandag. And Sandag is the one working with the UN to limit our movement and get us out of our cars. Every totalitarian society limits movement and takes away good weapons. That they have to do that because when they and now that that's happened in Europe, whole cities are protesting. Now, I can't remember the entire title of the video, but if you go to YouTube and put in Sandag UN Habitat, UN as in United Nations, Sandag UN Habitat, it should come up. I believe it was in February of last year. You'll know when you see it. I believe it's 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 50 seconds that they start talking about limiting your movement like they're doing in London and Oxfordshire. We didn't pay to have tolls on our roads. This is just totalitarian governance. And it's all UN Agenda 21. It's happening worldwide, not just here. And it's not a right or left issue. So get involved.
Okay, Consuelo, speaking on this item. Yeah, I just also wanted to encourage the people to pay attention to what they are doing at Sandag, because it's really, they're entirely in lockstep with the UN Agenda 21. And no, it's not a conspiracy theory, because they're doing everything that they set out to do, they're doing it. And so, yeah, basically they're trying to say that it's the UN Agenda 21's recommendations include new ways to preserve natural resources, which is false. It's a lie, because everything they do is essentially making our Earth, I mean, the lithium bombs that you can't put the fires out for days, weeks sometimes. I mean, it's so counteractive. It's so counterproductive. It makes no sense, just like this board. Another thing that they do is they, with the whole, I can't think of the word. That's okay. But like I said, this is, again, in lockstep with the UN Agenda 21. They are penalizing the people. They are making us pay for wanting to get around. They're wasting our resources while there's people in need of other things way more important than a bike lane. I mean, how many people do you guys see bike? I mean, did any of you guys ride your bikes here? Did you, Tara? Did you go surfing this morning? Yesterday was very tiring. I know.
Focus, please.
Okay, staying on topic. But
have a good day today, Consuelo.
there were other people off topic too, and you didn't call them out, but that's okay. That's okay. I get it. I'm done.
And I'll continue.
All right, we will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Becky Rapp, and I'm a parent and a public health educator concerned regarding the safety of our roads in the backcountry. I appreciate the Traffic Advisory Committee and their efforts to engage with each community group in hopes of providing unincorporated communities with enhanced road safety standards that reduce congestion. Many roads in the backcountry are not well lit, windy, and have many blind corners. My planning group is concerned as we've seen a significant increase in drivers driving at very high speeds and under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Recently, a tragic car accident or a car crash took place, killing a young 8-year-old boy and seriously injuring 3 of his siblings with significant head trauma and many broken bones. The man who caused the crash was under the influence of drugs as he showed marijuana in his blood. He failed to negotiate a bend in the road and veered into the opposite lanes of traffic due to his high speed. Marijuana exacerbated the situation as reaction time and coordination were deeply distorted. I bring this to your attention as situations like this devastating example can be prevented when stronger policies are implemented around road safety. Residents driving under the influence of marijuana are at an all-time high, and this information should have been included in the detailed report to the grand jury. Please consider evaluating the weak response made by this board to the grand jury and including more robust reports surrounding road safety and efforts to protect the innocent traveling on our backcountry roads. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Gambler, item number 10. Regarding all this and everything, the reason why I believe that elections are important is that we do not want our elected officials, which all the people that make the choices at Sandag are all elected or selected individuals that make these choices. They don't have our goals, our things in mind because we allowed other entities to go ahead and vote multiple times with zero checks and zero balances regarding that. That is a true statement. Anyone with a database of names and could go ahead and fill out registration cards for other people that don't typically vote and vote for them. That is why our numbers are going up, why more people are happening to vote, but it's not actually more people. It's some people voting multiple times. Our county encourages this. Matter of fact, anyone that tries to stop it gets shut down immediately.
Justin, this is your warning.
That is why
I need you to stay on topic. The item before you is item number 10, which is specific to Traffic Advisory Committee.
That is why they are, very simply, limiting our movement. This does not benefit us. It benefits the UN or it benefits China. They want to go ahead and make our lives difficult because it benefits UN and it benefits China. It does not benefit us at all. I wasn't off topic. Make sure you understand what I'm saying before you go ahead and make a comment, please. So take away my friggin' mark and pay attention to what I'm saying. Do I make myself clear? Do I?
Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippett. I just wanted to acknowledge the high risk of driving under the influence from marijuana. Car crashes involving pot are serious, and those marijuana-involved accidents near crashes, nearly 90% of the victims arrived by ambulance, the study found. When no alcohol or cannabis was involved, the number of people that required an ambulance dropped 40%. In addition, nearly 50% of marijuana users in a car crash required hospital admission, compared to just over 6% of those who did not. Recent statistics provided by a national survey on drug use and health reported that the number of drivers who admit to driving under the influence of marijuana in the past year increased over 14.85% across all ages from 20 to 21. But the most concerning age group, 16 and older, there were 10,876,000 in 2021. The difference is statistically significant. The age group 16 to 20 showed a slight increase, and for those 21 to 25, there was a 21% increase. In those 26 or older, they saw a nearly 16% increase. This trend is expected to worsen as additional states attempt to legalize and commercialize marijuana. And I hope the board will take a look at these statistics. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
All right. Is there any discussion with my colleagues? All right. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
And Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present voting aye.
All right. So thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is discussion item number 11, notice public hearing adopting of the County San Diego Inclusionary Housing Ordinance. We have a presentation by the team, so I'm going to turn over to Amy, and then you can introduce the folks.
Good morning, Chairman Vargas and supervisors. We're presenting the Inclusionary Housing Ordinance, which was one of many strategies to further affordable housing production. It aligns with the county's housing blueprint goal to produce housing for all, which was presented yesterday. Staff has developed 3 ordinance options for the board's consideration based on different policy priorities. The board can mix and match these options, which focus on the least requirements and lowest income levels, providing flexibility, or producing the most amount of affordable housing units. Today, staff is requesting that the board adopt the draft inclusionary housing ordinance and provide direction on the program options. During today's presentation, staff will provide background information on inclusionary housing and the ordinance components. This includes the set-aside requirement, meaning the amount of affordable housing and level of affordability, the minimum project size, or the number of units in a project for the ordinance to apply, alternative compliance methods, or ways of complying with the ordinance other than providing affordable units on site. And lastly, incentives, which help to offset the cost of providing affordable housing. Staff will present the 3 ordinance options, which combine these components into one decision point. Examples of how to mix and match the ordinance options will also be shared with the board. Finally, staff will review the recommendations for board consideration to adopt the draft ordinance by selecting an option or mixing and matching between them, or taking additional action to continue for review. For further reference, throughout this presentation, the bottom of each slide will show the topic being presented. In 2021, the board adopted the housing element, which included the inclusionary housing program and other programs that support home ownership and affordable housing. It reflected previous board direction to prepare an inclusionary housing ordinance that would apply to projects and capture land value increases from general plan amendments. The county is required to implement the housing element to maintain its housing element certification. The goal of inclusionary housing is to support developing more affordable housing while not slowing down overall housing production. It will require new housing developments to include a small amount of affordable housing that would be deed restricted and monitored by the county. It would apply to new projects and not apply to projects already underway with applications that are deemed complete. To be affordable, housing must cost less than a third of a household's income. Affordability is based upon annual income compared to the area median income, or AMI, as defined by the state. San Diego's AMI is about $120,000 for a family of 4. For example, a family with a very low income making less than $76,000 should not spend more than $1,900 on housing per month. The state identifies regional housing needs allocation, or RHNA goals, that the county is required to plan for at each income level. This table shows the county's progress in its RHNA goals for housing production in all 4 categories: above moderate, moderate, low, and very low. Like most jurisdictions across the state, the county is challenged with providing enough very low income housing. There is no easy solution to balance supporting affordable housing and overall housing production. Inclusionary housing can be a tool among other county programs to support housing and home ownership. Most jurisdictions use an inclusionary housing program to help address the shortage of low-income housing.
Here are the 3 options for the board to consider. The board can adopt one of these options or mix and match the options. To create the options, staff considered 2 main factors: the financial impact on projects and the policy goals the ordinance can support. Option 1 responds to input requesting the least requirements. It has the lowest financial impact on projects, but still helps the county make progress on its RHNA goals. Option 2 responds to input requesting more flexibility for applicants. It has a moderate impact and creates more mixed income communities while further progressing county goals. Option 3 responds to input requesting the program produce the most affordable housing units overall. It has the highest impact on projects while still remaining financially feasible. This option also balanced the highest incentives and is limited geographically. To create the ordinance, staff conducted best practice research, sought public input, and conducted an economic analysis. In best practice research, staff reviewed and discussed inclusionary ordinances with other local jurisdictions. Staff's research informed the options to tailor the program to local conditions. Throughout developing the program, staff prioritized community outreach. and hosted or attended over 60 meetings with stakeholders, focus groups, and the public. Staff received input from community members, community planning and sponsor groups, developers, affordable housing advocates, equity groups, labor unions, and environmental groups. The options respond to public input requesting the lowest economic impact, or option 1, the most flexibility under option 2, and the most number of affordable units under option 3. An economic analysis was prepared to balance supporting overall housing production and meeting affordable housing goals. The economic analysis evaluated market conditions in the unincorporated area. It tested 29 potential set-aside requirements and eliminated all non-feasible options. Based on the economic analysis, all options presented today are financially feasible, even without incentives. Again, there are 3 options for the board to consider. The board can mix and match the components of each option. Each option includes the 4 components, which we will now review. The set-aside requirement, minimum project size, alternative compliance, and incentives. The set-aside requirement determines the amount of affordable housing and level of affordability. For example, a 10-unit project with a set-aside of 10% low income must provide 1 affordable unit to a low-income household. Set-asides balance the level of affordability with the quantity of affordable units. Set-asides can align with county goals, including RHNA, flexibility, and producing the most affordable housing. All set-asides presented are financially feasible without incentives based on the economic analysis. Feasible set-asides differ based on project type of for rent, for sale, and general plan amendment. The second component is minimum project size that establishes which projects the program applies to. Projects with fewer units than the minimum project size are not required to build affordable housing. A smaller minimum project size, like 5 units, would require more projects to include affordable units, while a larger minimum size, like 12 units, means fewer projects will have to comply with the ordinance. The next component is alternative compliance, which offers ways to comply with the ordinance without providing affordable units on site. The options include 3 alternative compliance methods. In lieu fee, which is a payment of a fee equivalent to the cost of building affordable units on site. These fees will go into a fund for future affordable housing in the unincorporated area. Off-site development, which is building the affordable units in a different location than the market rate units. And land donation, which is donating land for future affordable housing. The board can adopt any or all of these, but state law requires adopting at least 1 form of alternative compliance. Staff responded to requests by stakeholders to provide greater flexibility in the location for off-site development and land donation in all options. The location criteria allows alternative compliance within the unincorporated area and within the same community plan area as the market rate development, or within 5 miles from the project site, or within high and highest resource areas, or within VMT efficient and infill areas. The last component is incentives, which encourage building the affordable units on site. There are already incentives for building affordable housing through the existing state and county density bonus programs. The options include an additional 5 to 20% density bonus that increases residential density. They also include additional regulatory incentives, such as reduced development requirements like setbacks and building height. Further, the options include priority review for projects that elect to provide 50% more affordable units at low income than would be required by the inclusionary housing ordinance.
Now that we've reviewed the 4 components, let's walk through each option in more detail with examples. Option 1 has the least requirement and makes some progress towards the RHNA goal. This option responds to Planning Commission requests for the least impact to development and alignment with the Transportation Study Guide. Option 1 has 1 set aside per project type. For rent projects, those will have a set aside of 5% very low. For sale projects, will have 10% moderate, and general plan amendment projects will have 10% low income. Option 1 has a minimum project size of 12, applying the program to fewer projects. It allows all projects to use an in lieu fee, as well as off-site development and land donations as alternative ways to comply. The option also responds to requests to provide more incentives in addition to the existing state and county's programs, adding 5% density bonus, a regulatory concession, and priority review if projects provide additional affordable housing. Option 2 has the most flexible requirements in response to developers' requests for flexibility. Option 2 allows an applicant to choose between multiple set-asides. For rent projects, may choose between a set-aside of 5% extremely low, 5% very low, or 10% low income. Option 2 has a minimum project size of 10 and allows in lieu fee by medium-sized projects under 20 units, as well as off-site development and land donation. Option 2 has the same additional incentives as option 1. Lastly, option 3 has the highest set-aside requirements ranging from 15 to 20%, making the most progress on housing goals. This option responds to requests from equity groups for more affordable housing production. Option 3 has a minimum project size of 5, applying the program to more projects overall. Option 3 only allows use of in lieu fee by small projects under 10 units, and to balance the higher requirements, option 3 doubles the state density bonus and adds the same regulatory concession and priority review incentives as option 1 and 2. Also, option 3 is geographically restricted to apply only within VMT efficient and infill areas. This aligns with requests from environmental groups to prioritize building in VMT efficient and infill areas, and requests from the Planning Commission and developers to consider VMT impacts. Let's walk through some examples. Under option 1, a rental project of 30 units would be required to include 5% or 2 very low income units. This option would be eligible for a 20% density bonus under current state law, plus the inclusionary housing program incentive of an additional 5% density bonus, allowing for 8 additional market rate units. If the project does not include the affordable units on site, they can choose between 3 alternative compliance methods. They can pay the in lieu fee, build the affordable housing off-site, or donate land. Under option 2, the same example project with 30 units for rent would have 3 options for the required affordable housing units. An applicant could choose between providing 2 extremely low-income units, or 2 very low-income units, or 3 low-income units. The project would again be eligible for a total of 25% density bonus, that is 8 additional market rate units. If the project does not include the affordable housing on site, they can again choose between off-site development or land donation. Under options 2, moderate requirement, the in lieu fee is not available for all projects over 20 units. To illustrate how the mix and match approach could be used, this slide shows how option 2 could allow use of in lieu fee by all projects, allowing this example project to pay an in lieu fee. For the last example, under option 3, the same rental project of 30 units would be required to provide 6 affordable housing units with 5% very low, 5% low, and 10% moderate income. With option 3 incentives, doubling the state density bonus, this project would receive a 40% density bonus, that is 12 market rate units. If the project cannot include the affordable units on site, they can choose between off-site development or land donation for alternative ways to comply. Under options 3, height requirements, in lieu fee is not available for projects over 10 units. But to illustrate mix and matching, the slide shows how option 3 could allow an in lieu fee for all projects. In summary, the board may adopt or mix and match one of the 3 options that have been shaped by community input. Option 1 would enact an ordinance with the least requirements overall, the lowest set-aside requirement, the highest minimum project size threshold, meaning fewer projects would need to comply, and allowing lieu fee for all projects. Option 2 emphasizes a mix of incomes with multiple options for the set-aside, a high minimum project size, and in lieu fee for medium-sized projects. Option 3 focuses on producing more affordable housing units. It has the highest set-aside requirement, a lower minimum project size, so more projects will need to comply, and in lieu fee for small projects. Option 3 is also geographically restricted to offer the most incentives. The board may also mix and match components of the 3 options. For example, if the board wants to focus on geographic applicability, the board may apply option 3 within VMT efficient and infill areas, while applying option 1 in the rest of the unincorporated county. The board could also omit the additional incentive in VMT inefficient areas. If the board wants to expand application of in lieu fee, the board could apply option 2 or 3, but with in lieu fee available for all projects, not just projects under 20 units. Or, if the board wants to limit the application of in lieu fee, the board could apply option 1 or 2 without allowing an in lieu fee and only offer other forms of alternative compliance. Lastly, if the board wants to adopt a mandatory inclusionary housing program with a voluntary incentive-based program, it could adopt option 1 and offer option 3 incentives to projects that provide option 3 set-asides.
Staff presented the ordinance at the Community Planning Group and Community Sponsor Group All Chairs meeting. 9 community planning groups requested the ordinance to be presented at their meetings. Fallbrook and Valley Center voted to be excluded from the program. The Planning Commission recommended deferring the ordinance until after the VMT mitigation program is adopted due to concerns about cumulative impacts on projects from both the inclusionary housing ordinance and the VMT mitigation program. To address this concern, the board can consider adopting an option with a low impact like option 1, or is geographically limited to VMT efficient and infill areas like option 3. Also, due to case law, general plan compliant projects should not need VMT mitigation if they're relying on the general plan CEQA analysis. Staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors find the proposed ordinance complies with the California Environmental Quality Act and state and county CEQA guidelines, and adopt the attached forms and ordinances. And regardless of which option is adopted, add 2 full-time equivalent positions to support the implementation of the monitoring of the program. This concludes the presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions.
And open it up to the board.
We have by phone on this item. Any individual into the conference line. Favor. The arrows and individuals and Kathleen. Okay.
I thought I wanted option 1, but where we could get as much as possible. And so what I want to tell you, a great solution, yes, in God's backyard. You know, Monica Ball went to the to say that churches can have affordable housing on their property. They could do affordable housing on their parking lots. You know, in the communities, there's a lot of churches, and people could say, hey, I want to finding a project to build. You could actually go to housing units, and they would say, we're desperate for it. They're desperate. County to do things about homeless for so long, and I can't get anybody to help me. identify sites, and nothing happens. I can't even get people to call me back. Of course, I want to say that instead of 5%, at least, not just 5%, and there's an churches in Yigby. We had, I don't know how many things where the churches said, we need money to build this. And your people said, $10,000 a unit, and that's all you're going to get. In lieu fees, you could go to the churches and say, we have, 4 units on your property. They would say, yes, we're desperate for this. Please help.
The prior and support on county public use airport land. This policy that we're discussing today should be applied to airport land, building affordable homes and homeless safe sites for the homeless. The graph on the right is 70 acres, as the UT said, of the last parcel of vacant, flat land in El Cajon, and El Cajon is built out. Directly north of that graph are the 3 longhangers, which I missed on highlighting, but they are now vacant. They have water, they have power, and they have security, and they have access directly to a public road. They are, what do you figure, 1.5 miles down from the new Amazon warehouse, where possibly some of the homeless could be working and have a safe place to live. Also included on, I'm going to go back down south to the graph, that also could be built for affordable and safe homes for the warehouse and the businesses around there. I would respectfully ask that the board consider using vacant airport land, at least 10% of the vacant airport land of the 16 airports in San Diego County to be included in this housing ordinance. Thank you. Yeah, and I got 11 seconds. Any questions? I mean, I sort of missed some things on the graph, but hopefully you get the gist of it. You know, El Cajon is in the middle of East County with mass transit all around it. Thank you.
While the next speaker is coming forward, I'll call the 2 additional speakers in favor. Lisa, I believe it's Lofbaum, and Dan Boyd.
Good morning, honorable supervisors. My name is Sean Kilkenny. I am co-founder and partner of Nolan Communities. The county is meeting its RHNA requirements currently in large part with ADUs, mobile homes, and non-deed restricted single-family homes in long ago approved tentative maps in Valley Center and Fallbrook and Palo Mesa, selling at market rates. It's not equitable, it's not diverse, and it's not sustainable. We believe that our recommendations are common sense approaches to providing more affordable and attainable housing. We've provided specific comments and recommendations on each option. In general, we support options 1 and 2, but we have concerns that option 3 both exceeds the requirements of state density bonus for rental projects and also disincentivizes building in VMT efficient and infill areas, which are the very areas that should be prioritized to meet VMT and GHG reduction goals. We propose that you consider instead focusing on the DFA areas where the county is going to be making commensurate investments in public infrastructure in order to provide for that higher set-aside requirement. We want to focus our remaining time on recommendations for the incentives. We recommend that the county include a defined priority review timeline for discretionary projects based on the schedules established as part of the removing barriers to housing item, and to require staff to achieve these timelines. As part of this, we recommend directing PDS to return with additional budget requests to ensure enough staffing to meet these timelines. We recommend the county increase the county's local density bonus on a sliding scale to match the amount of affordable housing provided. The more affordable housing a developer provides, the greater the local density bonus. We also recommend the county eliminate requirements or otherwise exempt projects that are general plan and zoning consistent from discretionary actions like site plans, use permits, design review, and grading permits when these projects achieve 20% of the base unit count as affordable housing, consistent with AB 1287 or AB 1387. This would require the county to also lobby Sacramento for a bill that would allow for sale projects that are consistent with the underlying land use and zoning requirements and prepare a local ordinance.
Hi. Dear members of the board, my name is Lisa Lofbaum, and I'm here to urge you to take a true, bold stand for true lasting solutions to affordable housing. Renting is a short-term fix, but home ownership, paying towards a mortgage, is the key to building sustainability, security, and long-term financial growth. I applaud the board for supporting tiny homes on wheels as a viable solution. Allowing them as ADUs under the 1033 program and in small lot developments is a significant step forward. You're not just setting policy, you're offering hope to countless people struggling to find a permanent place to call home. But I'm living proof of why more needs to be done. I own land in Fallbrook, yet I'm told I can't live on it because it's deemed illegal. Despite paying my fair share of property tax, I'm forced to pay an additional $18.50 in rent for another place to live every month. And this just isn't just my struggle. It's a widespread issue that prevents many from achieving the American dream of home ownership. Owning a home and the land beneath it is more than just about having a place to stay. It's about creating a stable future. I know this because in 1994, I bought land through an affordable housing program provided by the city of San Marcos, and it truly transformed my life. Now, despite using the proceeds to buy land in Fallbrook, I can't live on it due to costly restrictive ordinances. So I'm hoping today, after today's vote, my property's RHNA designation will help. Today, you have an opportunity for positive change. I gotta go fast. The measures you're voting on could make tiny homes a lasting solution for affordable housing. Imagine giving people not just a home, but a real stake in their community because they own their land, breaking the cycle of renting and building a foundation for lasting security. Let's make land ownership central to affordable housing. Together we can create not just homes, but futures filled with hope and stability. And I have to add, because I was not aware that until just moments ago that Fallbrook Design Group took it upon themselves to say we should be excluded from these excluded from the inclusionary housing ordinances. Boo, boo, Fallbrook, boo.
Madam Chair and members of the Board of Supervisors, my name is Daniel Boyd. I'm Vice President of D.R. Horton. We're the largest home builder in the United States. We're very actively involved in the communities of San Diego and the County of San Diego, and overall we applaud staff's effort in preparing the presentation before you today. We generally support affordable housing, and in doing so, we're actively involved in the city of San Diego with a current project referred to as Emerald Hills. It's becoming a very successful project. Operating in 37 states, I've seen a number of these affordable housing programs. If they're designed properly, considerate of home ownership, the ability to afford a home, they become very successful. If staff and the county can administer these programs in a prudent, efficient way in which partnerships are formed between the applicant and staff, working to implement these programs is the key. No matter which option you pick, no matter which options mix and match, they've got to be attainable. They cannot be an impediment to housing. Affordable housing causes approximately a 50% reduction from market rate to affordable rate. So yes, it's a very expensive option, but we applaud it. We support it. The problem we see professionally is implementation. The conditions are very stringent for a good reason, but in order for us to succeed with affordable housing, we have to work together between the applicant and the county, or the jurisdiction being the lead agency. Most of the failures come when we can't create options to implement outside of what these options are providing to you, because frankly speaking, this is a very difficult program to implement. And unfortunately, we're trying to develop infill opportunities. So we have general plan challenges. We have zoning challenges here at the county and the city. We need to overcome that with affordable housing and with obviously our development and infill development.
Thank you for your comments. Now call the speakers in opposition. I'll be calling the first three: allegedly Audra, Lori, I believe it's Fiedler, and Justine Murray. You can come forward in any order.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and Board of Supervisors. My name is Lori Holt-Filer. I'm the CEO and President of the BIA of the Building Industry of San Diego. And I'm here to ask you to defer action on adopting the inclusionary housing ordinance today. While we recognize the importance of addressing housing affordability and providing opportunities for low-income residents, the proposed inclusionary housing ordinance is not the most effective or equitable solution. As noted in the county-directed fiscal analysis, mandating affordable housing and new residential developments places additional costs on builders and developers. This has the potential to stifle housing production. And county staff is currently in the midst of completing multiple planning projects. This includes a VMT mitigation program, the sustainable land use framework, the development feasibility analysis, and the climate action plan. Each of these plans or analyses could have a large impact on the feasibility of developing new homes in the unincorporated area. Rather than view each of these projects in a vacuum, at the very least, planning projects should be completed prior to the consideration of any additional requirements that could negatively impact projects. So we respectfully request that the board table the proposed inclusionary housing ordinance and focus on allowing the other projects to come together and become intertwined. But if the board does move forward with inclusionary, then we strongly ask you to consider option number 1 with the following amendments. Increase the applicability of the ordinance to projects with a minimum of 25 units, amend the area median income level to 120% of AMI, and allow the in lieu fee to be allowed for all project types. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and supervisors. My name is Justine Murray. I'm speaking on behalf of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. We represent over 2,200 member businesses and over 300,000 jobs. Our mission is to make the San Diego binational region the best place to live and work. I want to start by thanking planning staff for their willingness to meet with the Chamber and our committees to discuss the proposed options for an inclusionary ordinance. Last week, the Chamber's Transportation and Land Development Committee, which is made up of development professionals representing various segments of this industry, considered the proposed ordinance and options before you today. The committee voted to support the county's planning commission's recommendation to delay adoption of any inclusionary ordinance, with the preference for option 1 with some amendments if the board does feel that it's important to move forward today. Simply put, it does feel like it's putting the cart before the horse, while VMT mitigation is still being figured out and while the DFA is still being completed. If the board does feel it's necessary to move forward with an inclusionary ordinance today, we would echo the same comments that you just heard from Lori. Option 1 with a few amendments. Increasing the minimum project size to 25 units, amending AMI levels up to 120% AMI, and a commitment that in lieu fee option is available for all projects. The current iteration of option 1 is far too restrictive and not economically feasible, thus would not result in the creation of more market rate and or affordable units in the unincorporated area of the county. Simply put, this option will not pencil, so not only will you not be getting inclusionary units, you'll not be getting market rate, we'll not be building the units that we need to build in the unincorporated areas of the county to help with our regional housing crisis. We caution moving forward with an inclusionary ordinance at this time before other housing policies that could affect a future ordinance of this type, like the DFA and VMT mitigation, are developed. If the ordinance is delayed today, we're more than happy to provide feedback on option 1, why we're putting forward those amendments for consideration. We thank you for your time today and consideration of our request.
Thank you. And while our next speaker is coming up, I will call the 2 remaining speakers in opposition, which is Mark and Consuelo.
Mark, so here's a recommendation by the Planning Commission. It says, recommend that the Board of Supervisors defer consideration of the draft inclusionary housing ordinance until the county's vehicle miles traveled VMT mitigation program is adopted. So I will be discussing how this relates to that. First of all, Nora is not only chair here, as I said, she's chair of SANDAG. They're the ones that are controlling this against the people's knowledge even that it's occurring. Here is, here. I'll talk a little more while she finds the meeting. Now, the meeting's name, this is how you spell Sandag, and the name on YouTube of the video is Sandag Binational United Nations Habitat UN Habitat Conference. You can see them limiting our movement at 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 50 seconds. We're going to play a section here from, well, look it up again, just bring you in. Sandag UN Habitat. So here's some videos you can check out in the meantime. Rosa Corey will describe how this is all occurring. Start at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. She's an accepted California expert witness. Yes, this totally relates. Yes, I just said, I talked about vehicle miles traveled and how this relates to the housing. It's in your book. It's right here as your recommendation, and I'm discussing that. So here's what's happening with the same thing in Europe and how they're backlashing because they don't like it. These are all YouTube titles. Here is the Resilient Cities Network. That's a YouTube title. You can see it at 5 minutes and 28 seconds, if I recall correctly, to check out what they're doing with that. Here is another video on the hard truth about the United Nations that Noor and Sandag are working with and getting money and becoming a shadow type of government that is, I'm out of time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Oh, Nora left.
Next speaker, Consuelo or Audra.
My person uses the name Audra, so it's interesting. The VMTs are going to drive us into 15-minute cities. How cool is that, right? Total enslavement. And I'm just wondering, it's like with incentives, you know, and the illegals are going to get $150,000 to buy a home. Wouldn't that be cool if everybody got that so they could actually purchase a home and not have to rely on you guys to provide it? And it's interesting, Jim, you're always talking about we don't want to get in our own way of building homes, but that's what you guys do. That's what this is. That's totally... It's crazy that there's 7 of you sitting here just to do a presentation. It's very interesting that we're paying for that. We could probably make more affordable housing if we didn't have to pay people to just say a few words at the meeting. But it's just interesting too because it's like you have this in lieu fee. It's like either you want affordable housing or you don't. And you're like, well, we'll allow you to give us money if you don't really want to put it. And then you're like, we're going to go after all of these like, you know, big companies like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street for not providing the things and waste the people's money when you can't provide what needs to be provided for the people. And we're using all of this climate BS, the climate god, to, you know, determine like how the housing can be built and different things like that. It's like literally if you wanted to do it, you could. And the point is that you guys are just here to enslave the people. So it's like you do all this busy work and, you know, virtue signal like we're going to provide all this for the people. It's just going to take 100 years. So you'll be dead by the time it comes in. And then, but your family will be able to benefit off of it. That'll be great. Yeah, it's just interesting because literally all of this does with the VMT and all of that bullshit is literally enslave the people and be like, you can't go outside of your 15-minute zone unless you have a permit, and then we'll let you see your family like, you know, maybe once or twice a year at a very high cost. But at least that'll provide maybe a roller coaster, right?
Consuelo, yes. To piggyback off of everything that the previous speakers just touched base on. So this is California's housing market history. The San Diego metro area has been experiencing a growing housing deficit since the mid-90s. In 2022, the area was short about 90,000 homes. California's housing market has experienced periods of rapid growth and severe shortages. For example, the post-World War II boom led to suburban development, but growth slowed in the following decades due to what? land use restrictions and increasing regulations. By who? The government. They say affordable housing, but nothing about property taxes. So this all sounds great, but read the fine print, people. Read between the lines. When this eventually fails, it fails on the people's dime. All these failed issues, all of them trail back to the government policies. They create the problems, they create the chaos, and then they trick the people to appear as the heroes. Question: when will the tax-paying indentured servants wake up to the reality that this local government does not work for the people? They never have. Get involved, San Diego. Get involved, humanity. It's time.
We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
All bold. Good campaign, bad in reality. I agree that this inclusionary ordinance is needed because the high rents that are being charged are now fueling the homeless crisis and leaving less money for the other stuff. But this proposal needs to be reworked before it is approved, and please make it readable by the average small landlord as well. For the one section exempts units renting to people making 80% of the median income. This is no way to create truly affordable housing. This needs to be amended down to 30%, as the presenter suggested, or less, something meaningful. I prefer option 2 of section 6341B 1, because it seems to allow both small and larger landlords to add units. Option 1 would allow subdividing houses, which is suboptimal. Packing 2 families into one house is too dense and bad for health and risks substandard conditions, overcrowding, and PTSD stuff. Option 3 seems to exclude smaller landlords by allowing only larger developments. Then other sections have more options. And the ordinance has way too many tables and has so many requirements that probably a lot of small landlords wishing to build will be discouraged. So who's left? Vanguard and Blackstone and Blackheart. Is this a real proposal or someone's attempt to make you do their work for them? The requirement is that affordable housing units.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Nico Calavita. I'm Professor Emeritus in the graduate program in city planning at San Diego State University. I've been working on inclusionary housing for almost 40 years, not only because of its potential to produce affordable housing, but also because it can help foster mixed income communities, what in Europe is called social inclusion. In all those decades, it has become clear that inclusionary works. But to work, inclusionary housing programs have to be fair, reasonable, and flexible. To be fair and flexible, the county inclusionary housing ordinance should phase in general plan compliant properties over a period of 3 to 5 years to allow for land markets to adopt downward. This would allow you to choose option 3. So I repeat, do the phasing and choose option 3. I should mention that when regulatory measures are adopted, such as development impact fees, inclusionary housing, or commercial linkage fees, land prices will decline over a period of a few years. The situation is different for general plan amendments. If you approve them, land values will skyrocket. It is only fair for the county to capture some of the land value increases in the form of additional inclusionary housing. And you have made land value capture one of your goals. As the Sierra Club data suggests, requirements as in the 12,000-acre North City in the city of San Diego could be a good start. 20% at 65% AMI, I think 25% would be feasible. This is extremely important to avoid socioeconomic segregation and foster social inclusion and equity. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Hi, my name is Asma Abdi. I'm calling on behalf of PANA and the Coalition for Equitable Development. I support the adoption of an inclusionary housing ordinance to facilitate the development of affordable homes for very low and moderate income households. The ordinance should apply to the entire unincorporated area with the goal of incentivizing development near infrastructure and amenities to discourage sprawl, which has negative economic, social, and environmental impacts. Given that the county has only met 16% of its RENA goal for the very low income range, I urge you to prioritize a rental set aside that increases the number of rental units accessible to very low income households. The ordinance should also encourage developers to build the affordable units on the same site as the market rate units to help advance affirmatively furthering fair housing requirements and address historic patterns of segregation and concentrated poverty. If the board allows off-site development as an alternative form of compliance, the off-site development should provide an additional 5% for very low income, less than 50% AMI, rental housing, or 5% of low to moderate income, less than 110% AMI for sale housing. If in-lieu fees are adopted, they should be updated annually based on the annual construction cost index or similar construction industry index selected by the CAO. Additionally, the ordinance should allow off-site construction and land donations that meet specified criteria to be transferred to a qualified community land trust, similar to the County of Los Angeles' ordinance. Developers that provide at least 50% more affordable, up to 65% AMI housing units than are required by the ordinance should receive priority review. Thank you so much for your time, and please vote yes on this item.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hello, my name is Sandra Farrell. I'm Vice Chair of the Twin Oaks Valley Community Sponsor Group, but I'm speaking as an individual today. I want to thank staff for reviewing the sponsor group letter to the Planning Commission on this ordinance. They have addressed some of my questions, but I would like answers to others if possible. Staff says the ordinance support this. What I don't support is any incentive that reduces the parking and open space requirements. Parking and open space is needed for everyone, especially the people of very low income who tend to be in the service industries, such as landscapers and in construction. They are not likely to use the bus or the Sprinter to get to and from work because their work changes often. They also have larger vehicles. Their children need open spaces as much as any other child, possibly more. One of the options is to direct the affordable housing to the VMT efficient and infill areas. Staff says it will not change the density, zoning, steep slope, or fire requirements. Some of the infill areas, though, are, per the general plan, semi-rural 1 and semi-rural 10. They are on steep slopes, designated very high fire, septic dependent with low water pressure. Most rely on the California FAIR Plan for fire insurance. What I'm wondering is why these areas are being considered as an option in this ordinance. Staff says the ordinance will place affordable homes in the same community plan as the market rate homes. I support this, especially if it is in the same project, for the reasons other speakers have stated. But there is no community plan area defined for the Buena Creek area unless it is the entire North County metro area. So what does this mean? Does this mean a development?
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go ahead and go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippett. I'm a drug policy researcher on behalf of youth, young adults, and my local and district planning groups. The public has become increasingly confused and misinformed about drugs prescribed over the counter, illicit, illicit, legitimized, or normalized by state and local governments to pursue revenues, abandoning the independent role they were intended to play as unbiased resources of evidence-based research. Without being provided both the risk and benefit profiles of any drug or drug policy, the public can hardly be expected to make informed choices. I appreciated the earlier comment regarding the importance of conflicts of interest. Regulatory agencies have become increasingly influenced by the donations given to them to shape their professional opinions. Dr. Bertha Madras, Harvard Medical School psychobiologist and renowned drug and brain researcher, recently recognized how her work has become more challenged by marijuana and psychedelic industries, having invaded medical societies, professional associations, hospitals, and universities. We are aware that most, like me, over the last couple of years have made every effort to provide unbiased information to inform county drug policies. The evidence of the nexus between high THC marijuana, mental health problems, expanded drug use, emergency visits, poisonings, homelessness.
Kathleen, I'm going to go ahead and pause your time. Just to note, this is for item 11, non-agenda. If you're signed up for that, will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. Chair would like you to stay on topic.
Apologies. Excuse me, I would like to seek a non-agenda public comment. My apologies.
No problem. You can go ahead and disconnect your call and then call back, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll go ahead and go to our next caller.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, 1 second. Technical glitch there. There you go, Susan. You can go ahead and begin your comments. I got your time started. Over.
My name is Susan Baldwin. I'm a planner and affordable housing advocate. Thank you for bringing this important program forward today. The County of San Diego should join the other 11 jurisdictions in the San Diego region by adopting an inclusionary housing ordinance. We have an affordable housing crisis, and this ordinance will help provide housing for very low, low, and moderate income households, and will ensure the location of affordable housing in all communities in the unincorporated area. Also, please adopt a 20% inclusionary housing requirement at 65% AMI for general plan amendment projects as recommended by the Sierra Club and Professor Nico Calavita. I support option 3. It should, however, apply to the whole unincorporated area. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Gambler here. Perfect example of you guys not paying attention, because that was a long-ass rant about medicine when we're talking about housing. For the homeless problem that only increased since 2020 when we broke our election. And now since that, I'm really curious on what that percentage was before, because like it's at like 15, 16 low income right now, like people homeless, I guess that's what you're going with. I wonder what it was at, like, in 2019. I don't think we were reaching those numbers. It must have been the policy changes that you guys have been implementing that in increasing the amount of people that are homeless, forcing you guys to do the good thing and make, give our taxpayer money to other organizations, cut down their prices, make it cheaper for them to build our housing that will save us, but make them an ungodly amount of money. I mean, it's kind of like someone set this up to do so that they could make money off of this, using our elections as, you know, to get it done. And what, a little bit of kickbacks to you guys, and you guys don't look into the elections at all? Because whether or not you're selected or elected, you still have that position. It is still your duty to make sure that we have safe and secure elections so that this kind of shit does not happen. But apparently, right now, we want this shit to happen because A, it makes you guys money, B, it destroys California and the United States because we're trying to get everyone to do this. Like, I really, really do not understand your guys' motivation and who you actually work for, because it's clearly not the people. I mean, you're making it obvious and evident.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Hey guys, Truth here, still alive. I just needed sleep. On Mark Dorian's earlier note of lowering our standard of living and government intentionally taking the entirely wrong approach, here's this item. How come the socialist inclusionary housing ordinance is never inclusive of single-family homes? Is it exclusive because those running the county and the state do everything they can to make housing unaffordable, including home insurance and property tax skyrocketing, and the fees to build single-family homes are exorbitant, and then they buy up all the extra land so no one can build single-family homes? And on the county and city level, we have people in office who kowtow to a made-up, nonsensical nightmare state goal called RHNA numbers. The state demands local governments build the type of housing they want, where they want it, under the threat of $50,000 a month fines. That is extortion, and it needs to continue to be legally challenged so local governments can maintain local control with housing plans that actually make sense for their San Diego, California region residents. Otherwise, we'd be talking about a bunch of stack packs shoved into some infill spots right near Joel's home in Alpine. There's no public transit, but maybe that could be an incentive for San Diego and MTF to actually give a care about East County. To flip their meaningless saying, build the housing and they'll come. To further break apart this housing shortage scam, this is really about benefiting big corporate developers, what no liar Tara says she's against. It benefits companies like BlackRock and Blackstone to have governments say they only have to insure a certain percentage of the cheaper rent box units, as low as 5%, which this presentation said could be a measly 2 units, which means the developer could build 8 more boxes to profit off of, and then they can get their dense luxury buildings shoved into neighborhoods fast with lower fees and without the neighborhood's consent. Neighbors wake up one day and realize there's 2 4-story buildings blocking their sun and stealing their privacy in their backyard, like what happened to a woman in Mira Mesa recently. This is another state craziness example that has resulted in people leaving the state of California at a record rate or facing homelessness. None of what was presented today was a real solution. It's a way to ensure housing isn't built in the backcountry and generational poverty for everybody.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. All right, so first and foremost, thank you to everyone that joined us today with public comment and for all of your information. Thank you to the team. Inclusionary housing is really an opportunity for us to really focus on a critical step in ongoing affordable housing and moderate income housing shortage to address it here in San Diego County and in unincorporated areas. And really, it's, to me, I think the goal here of this ordinance is what we can't forget, that it's really to create opportunities for families to afford and have access to housing, which is the primary goal of why we're having this conversation. So the numbers show, particularly in my district, and I want to share this with you because I think this is important as we're looking at it from a big perspective picture. Numbers show that in 2050, almost 80,000 additional residents will call District 1 their home, compared to 30,000 people in other parts of the county. This highlights the pressing need for sustainable and equitable housing solutions, including affordable housing and middle-income, low housing production and programs. We need to see actual units that serve the needs of our population, including opportunities to move out of affordable housing, and we need to think beyond deed restricted. There has to be a continuum, and I think we saw during the recent floods that the most pressing concern that a lot of folks had was the high cost of housing. And so we need to make sure that we focus on how we can alleviate that burden and support our communities. And if there's funding, to allocate some of that funding for the homeownership programs as well. So yesterday we received the housing blueprint, and with this inclusionary housing today, I do believe that we have a unique opportunity to directly influence how we address the housing crisis in our region. Because we are meeting the RHA, the arena numbers at the higher income levels, we continue to fall short at the very low level, because I think we're 71 in the low level, lower end, but it's only 16 at the lower end, right? The very lower end. I think we have to focus on integrating all the moving pieces, the housing blueprint, BMT mitigation, the measures and the climate action plan into a much more cohesive inclusionary housing implementation strategy. Integrating our efforts and understanding our role as a county and collaborating with other communities and cities and stakeholders will give us an opportunity for a more comprehensive and effective approach. This item is a great start, and I want to thank the team for all the work that you did and for really bringing stakeholders together to make sure that you got feedback and presented this to us. But I think these ideas need to be part of an implementation packet that should be brought back in the winter. The county's inclusionary housing has the potential not to only to build and secure affordable rents for our residents, but also has the potential to provide opportunities for home ownership and stable affordable housing for income and middle income communities. So by creating pathways to affordable home ownership, we help communities build generational wealth, ensuring that future generations can benefit from the economic stability and prosperity that comes with owning a home. So this is a crucial step towards closing the wealth gap and fostering long-term financial security within San Diego's diverse communities. So I commend the county staff once again for all the work that they've done in developing the different options for this item and for ensuring that equity is at the core. But at this time, I think the best action moving forward is to bring this item back in the winter of this year in the form of an implementation packet. And for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. And okay, thank you. We move it. And so I want to make sure that these particular items, so that after the DFA and the VMT mitigation program options are presented to the board in winter, that staff bring to us and return the options, and make sure that the considerations include ensure overall housing production is not negatively impacted, align with the state density bonus law, include considerations for phasing in the program to allow time for land values to adjust the program, continue to engage with experts and the community, provide inclusionary housing production estimates for each of these options, including middle income home ownership, infrastructure that can be provided in option 3 to maximize units in the VMT efficient and infill areas concurrent with the development feasibility analysis for those areas. And offsite developments should be within a radius of 3 miles of the vicinity or the community planning area. So it's a combination of the recommendations that you made. So thank you for seconding that, Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor Desmond.
Okay, so I want to understand that the motion is just to come and bring it back. So we're not really opting for 2D. It's just bring it back again.
It's not really bringing it back again. It's actually incorporated into a bigger plan, an inclusive plan that includes all of the other items that we're looking at this time. And so you are welcome to make recommendations of what you would like to see in that inclusionary plan. I was leaning towards 3 and 1, but I think there's still a lot of questions around where we are with BMT. There's still a lot of questions as you know, we provided feedback yesterday on the housing blueprint. And so I feel like even though I understand from our planning department that inclusionary housing ordinance can stand alone, I do believe, and we hear this from not only developers, but from folks often, is that sometimes this hand is not speaking to this other hand, right? The whole concept. And so at this point, what I'm trying to suggest is that we bring it all back together in the winter, and that we include all of it. And so if there's items from number 2, which is what you're saying, if you can identify.
Well, that was just 2D was just to delay the whole thing. So and bring it back. So
yeah, but
that's
I'm not.
Kind of what you're doing.
Okay, but I gave very specific direction of what I want. So it's not just necessarily 2D. That's why I changed the actual. Yeah, do you want to put it up? Sure. Yeah. See, it would have been easy for me to say just 2D. That's not my recommendation. My recommendation is a combination of all of them.
Okay.
Hope that makes sense.
Okay. Well, I still have some questions, and I want to make some comments, but I have not seen this before.
Okay. Would you like me to come back to you?
No, I'm pretty good. But I guess one of the things I would like to see brought in here. But first of all, thanks. Thanks for the presentation. I know a lot of work went into this and figuring out the percentages and all the different areas and the different options. So thank you very much for that. And I don't mind the idea of having inclusionary housing ordinance. We had one in San Marcos when I was mayor, and we approved a lot of affordable housing projects. I think we had a 10% inclusionary, and we built a lot of affordable housing. We had about a 10% of our housing stock was deed restricted affordable, which is one of the reasons why we have very few homeless in San Marcos. But I think, as our chair had alluded to, we got to get this right. And we need both very low and low income, but we also need the market rate workforce housing. We don't want to sacrifice one for the other, but what happens though in a housing project, but I guess you get the density bonus to maybe offset it, is that the cost for the low and the very low gets added on to the market rate ones. But if you get the bonus, then that seems to work out. But I just want to make sure that we're not putting one before the other. And as the BIA and others have stated, if the only way we're going to get affordable units if overall housing projects are still viable. If housing projects are not viable at all, we're not going to get the affordable ones. And I do think it'd be very prudent, I'd like to see in the comeback plan, that take a look at what the building industry said works for them. They had 3 different amendments on here of what they would like to see with option 1, the minimum number of units to go up, the AMI to be a different number, and the in lieu fees. And this is the message from the building industry. These are the people that are actually going to build it. If we can't meet them, at least halfway or partway on what their requests are, this isn't going to none of it's going to get built. So this is, I think, we got to listen to the people that are actually going to put units and put in the ground. So I think we have to take a strong look at what their suggestions are. I know we just got the letter a couple of days ago from them, but I do think if those options could be implemented so that we get units built. I also think, we keep putting new policies and regulations. We just got to make sure we're not getting in the way. It was a planning commission's recommendation to defer consideration until the VMT mitigation's in place. I know we're still waiting on, it was mentioned, VMT, development feasibility analysis, climate action plan, sustainable use framework. I don't know if those are all going to be done by winter or not. I'm probably guessing not. But there's a lot of things at play. But I think with so much uncertainty in the pending acts and development costs, I agree with the Planning Commission to send it in the letter from the BIA that we put a pause on this, which we're doing, which I'm glad to hear. And the gentleman who talked about implementation, I think that's very important. An implementation plan and work with the industry to see how that implementation is going to work smoothly. If there's no certainty, and there's too much risk, the industry isn't going to build these things. So I think working with that implementation plan and seeing what has to be put in place so hopefully this is in line with your motion. But I do think we can make this work, but we can't stifle development. And maybe even with the BIA suggestions, if you look at those, we look at the RENA numbers, but we also have beyond the RENA numbers, we just need housing for our workforce. And for businesses, they need housing. So we still need, other types while we're building, and we've got to achieve those while we're building the affordable or the inclusionary housing. So if you can encapsulate all that, the implementation plan and looking at the BIA suggestions, also to be part of that plan coming back so that the industry says, yes, we can do it. That's what I'm really going to be looking for. So thank you.
Thank you. And I know that they have been integral to the discussion process, and I know that my office and myself have all been engaged, and part of why we're moving forward and holding off is to really ensure that all stakeholders and recommendations are part of that. So,
but I'd like those 3 looked at, analyzed as part of it. Sure. With comeback. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Thank you. Just a couple comments. First of all, I want to appreciate staff and all the stakeholders for all the time and effort you've put into this process. My view is that inclusionary housing is a very important tool. because it is the best mechanism we have to make sure that we can provide the low and very low housing units that we need and meet the demand and the need for affordable housing in our communities. And we know that these programs work. Over 900 jurisdictions have adopted inclusionary housing programs and have produced tens of thousands of affordable units. I'm really focused on making sure that we have the right incentives in place to produce the modestly priced housing that is affordable to working families and teachers, like teachers and medics who make approximately $70,000 a year. So that's really what I've been thinking a lot about, is how do we ensure that teachers and medics and people who serve our communities can afford to live in our communities. And right now we know that that is such a huge challenge that people face, and we need to do everything we can to tackle that. So that's really why I'm so excited about the inclusionary work that we're doing. And I'm definitely supportive of staff continuing to refine these options. I know we've received several letters this week with sort of some suggestions for tweaks and different ways of refining what's been presented. And I would imagine that if we're going to move forward with the motion that my colleague made, that we will have time to incorporate those suggestions for tweaks. There was two letters in particular, and happy to chat if you didn't receive them, that I thought were very useful and interesting. Just a couple things I want to uplift as you kind of continue refining these options. I'm definitely interested around how we can ensure that land markets adjust. So what that means, like how do you building in, potentially it's phase-in time periods, or ensuring that it's the land values that are adjusting in time, in order to ensure that that's what's being impacted by our inclusionary ordinances. I also am very interested in looking at how we can combine option 3 in the infill areas and potentially something like option 1 outside the infill areas, so that we can really incentivize creating the most affordable housing in the places where we've already decided that we want to build affordable housing and more housing. So, if we're going to have more and more inclusionary, how do we get more of that in the infill areas and kind of focus on that as opposed to the outside the infill areas? I think that could take a couple different forms. I'm agnostic right now on what that could look like, but certainly worth looking at as you kind of refine options would be exploring removing in lieu fees in the infill areas, because then you're actually getting the housing. And then also, how do we make sure that the in lieu fee is appropriately sized to finance and support affordable production? So that was something that definitely struck me, is if these in lieu fees are not actually providing the resources needed to make those investments in alternative affordable housing units, then they're not actually in lieu, because you're not getting another unit in lieu of the one you would have been getting. I think of it that way. If you have some kind of construction that was going to go up and you should have gotten, 3 units, and then you pay in lieu fees to not do those 3 units, well, we should then be able to get 3 units somewhere else. If you can't get 3 units somewhere else, then it's not really in lieu, because it's not actually helping us get those 3 units. So that's something that definitely struck me when I was looking at these numbers. Math wasn't really adding up for me of how we would necessarily build 3 units somewhere else. So anyway, again, I think there's more analysis needed, and definitely think that there was some good suggestions from folks, and looking forward to getting that analysis, and happy to support my colleague today. Thanks.
Thank you. Supervisor Montgomery-Stepp.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the presentation and everyone who came out with some really good feedback as well. I will be very honest. I came in today saying I cannot believe we don't have an inclusionary zoning ordinance or housing ordinance. And so I was ready, to really move forward. But I will support what's on the motion that's on the floor today, particularly because of some additional things that I heard from the public. One thing that stood out to me, or there are really 2 things, and then I'm going to talk about how I really feel about in lieu fees and offsite development, which will maybe be a little bit uncomfortable, but I heard priority review timelines for specific projects that are getting us to the goals that we set for ourselves, which I think is very important, and something that we talked about yesterday during the housing blueprint conversation was just implementation. I referenced some things in the blueprint that talked about initiatives and decisions that have been made on this dais, and we have no idea how they're going in sort of real life once we leave here and the decision is made. And so I just don't think any of this is worthy of conversation without understanding how whatever we do will be implemented. So, you know, we're here with the presentation and having the conversation, but there's the very real work of taking in the applications, working with the developers, guiding them through the process, all of our employees kind of being on the same page about what that process is and what their discretion is and what it's not. And so that's really, I think, the work that no one will see, but the work that's the absolute most important when we're having these conversations. And so that, for me, no matter what direction we go in the wintertime, I guess it is now, I am trying to really figure out how to get an understanding of the implementation process so that we can determine, like, you know, what are we doing great and then what are we not. And definitely there's conversations with the stakeholders, but that's also conversations with our employees, you know, because everyone has their own agenda, right? And that's okay to say, that's not a negative thing. It's just that's why we have, you know, conversations with people from different perspectives so that we can come up with something that is, you know, serves all of the people, which that's what we're here for, not just one particular stakeholder. So I could go on and on about that all day. That's my biggest frustration. It always has been as an elected official, that we have this drive to do these things and produce more housing or anything else that we talk about, and then it somehow can get lost in the shuffle of 18,000 employees. You know, you know, we don't have 18,000 people approving permits, but just generally speaking. So I want to. Those are priority review timelines. There was a lot of other stuff that we'll have more conversations about that from the feedback. I just want to say I do appreciate D.R. Horton being here and the project that you are doing in Emerald Hills. We worked together on that quite a bit before I came over to the county. So the whole purpose of inclusionary housing, it's a tool, of course. We know we're lacking in affordable housing. But we have had exclusionary zoning practices. And I see this as sort of also a moral document, right? That we are making a commitment to make sure that any person that lives in San Diego and particularly is contributing to the county in one way or the other can live here. And previous, you know, exclusionary practices have prevented us from doing that. So I feel in my mind it's sort of making up for some of the redlining and practices that have led to really a legacy of segregated neighborhoods, even here in San Diego. So with that, I'm always looking at these alternative compliance methods, including the land donation, the in lieu fees, and the offsite production. What does that really do for affordable housing, and how does that either contribute to more balanced communities where we have mixed incomes and neighborhoods that are attracting retail and commercial, as opposed to what HUD describes as those concentrations of poverty where there's a lack of investment and we're sort of putting all people in certain income areas in one place. So my experience has been that the in lieu fee model doesn't really work. It just doesn't. I know it's probably going to be, you know, in our final analysis. I don't like it. because my experience has been that it barely even covers some gap financing for developers. So I don't like it. Offsite production, in my perfect world, whatever that is, that wouldn't exist either. I know we have to have at least one alternative compliance method. So the offsite housing production with the sort of qualifiers that we have or exceptions that we have. I see one in the motion with the 3-mile radius as opposed to the 5-mile. Okay, that is okay, but what I'm looking at is what is truly inclusionary. To me, it's not inclusionary to say, if you don't want to include lower income in this project, then you can just pay a fee. How does that promote inclusionary housing? Also, just, if you don't want to have affordable housing in this project, then you can take it off-site. It's just, I think it defeats the purpose of the whole name of the thing. But I will not talk about that anymore. Hopefully that'll add to just the continued analysis. But, I'm really, if we're going to say we want to be more inclusionary, then our documents need to reflect that, and our commitment needs to reflect that in our operations. And so those are the things that I'll be continuing to listen to and look for. But I know that so much work has gone into this before I was here. And now you have a whole other set of input to add to everything you've done so far. But thank you for all the work, and again, appreciate the public for being here.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with my two previous colleagues with their remarks. I would ask that you look at fees in lieu from a different standpoint. When Scott Wiener and I joint authored SB 35, one of the focuses that I was on was that we wanted success. The problem with the unincorporated is, and no reflection on our chairwoman, we don't have a vote at Sandig. We don't have what other communities have, trolleys and buses. So to turn around and not have a fee in lieu or something is guaranteeing that person's not going to be successful. We know these are low-income folks that have to get to work, and they may or may not have a car. And as a result, if we build it in some of the villages that have been forgotten and left behind, we are stranding them in those communities as opposed to giving them opportunities for the best possible job or career path for them. And so I would just ask that we think about results, and I get what you're saying. I've never supported redlining. I think that's one of the problems with VMT. I think it's modern day redlining, prohibiting people to buy something that's affordable. But I also think that we miss opportunities too when some of these on the lowest of the low end may require social services. And if we can get some economies of scale so that we can guarantee their future, I don't want somebody to move into affordable housing and then we use the caste system to keep them in affordable housing. I want them to use that as a stepping stone to move up in homes, move up in the American dream, and actually achieve the goals that so many people in San Diego County have hit and succeeded at. So when I look at that, I'm thinking about, can we leverage the in lieu or other items to ensure their success, not for the developer, but for the person who's going to be purchasing and moving in. And you know what, I'm thinking that we're on the same path, that we may have come from different areas. I live in the rural portion of the county, so I look at it differently, knowing that we don't have whatever other people have. Earlier today we talked about, we're so grateful, and thank you to my colleague who has worked so hard to bring internet to the unincorporated. But we have people downtown that are complaining the internet's not fast enough when portions of our county don't have internet. So, let's really truly look at the needs. And I get it's hard to overcome the past, but let's look at the needs to grow the future and ensure that everyone has every opportunity to succeed in life. And I don't want to put them in the back 40, strand them, and then they fail to make payments because they can't get to work or they can't find employment that fully utilizes all their skill sets. So when we're moving forward, you've got in every direction in the world to look at fees in lieu and in other benefits. But I look at it not from the standpoint of benefiting developers, but rather benefiting my constituents. So thank you.
Supervisor Desmond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had time to read A through G up here. I just had a question on the intent for off-site development. And I get should and shall and must, and those are very important words. So this is should be within a 3-mile radius or the vicinity of the community planning area, or in the community planning area. It's not a must. I guess it's or is that a must? It has to be, because what one of the speakers asked for was flexibility. And if there's something that's, I don't know, 4.5 miles out or something like that, or just because of the topography or the slopes or whatever the case may be, I just want to make sure we're flexible enough so we're not turning projects down if this is a must.
Does that give you let me ask the team if does that give you the flexibility that you need?
Currently, as proposed in the draft ordinance, off-site development is one of 3 alternative compliance measures. One of the stipulations currently is that it has to be either within 5 miles of the project, or within the community planning area, or within a VMT efficient and infill area and high resource area. So there's several ways to comply.
Well,
as I read this,
they all may, I mean, the unincorporated area is desert, it's mountains, there's a lot of topography. And I just don't want to kill projects, or I want to have that flexibility of okay, this isn't going to work for this project. So maybe we can, adjust, or I just want to have that flexibility built in overall.
My intention was that there would be flexibility, so should be, but that's why I'm asking the team that, are you reading it that way, or do I just have to put it on the record?
Yes, Chairwoman, if the term is should versus must, that's sufficiently flexible.
Okay.
Okay.
We can work on any additional criteria.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Supervisor Montgomery,
Just real quick, just to follow up on the in lieu fee conversation. My understanding is that the in lieu fees had a very, if we can craft how they're used, then I'm open for that conversation. If they are restricted via state law as to how they're used to further other development, then that's where I have issues with it, because it's just defeated to not have to adhere to the requirement. And my experience has been that they, over at the city, we had one, and we had inclusionary housing ordinance, that they went to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And in that, they were, they were helpful, but not as helpful as they should have been. And so that's where I wanted to make that distinction. We can also have that conversation, or at least get clarity as to what our authority, can be around, where those funds would go.
Okay. With that,
Oh, sorry. I was trying to request to talk. My bad.
Vice Chair Lawson.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you. Sorry. I just wanted to pick up on this conversation by my colleagues because I think it's helpful. We're asking staff to do a lot of analysis, and I want to build on these comments as the kind of conversations I hope we can have in more depth when we come back. I think they're both saying something that was very relevant to what my point was, which is I am much more interested in actually inclusionary housing being built in places where there is access to transit, where it does make sense, where it's already going to make sense to have density, and much less and more open to in lieu fees in the places where, as my other colleague pointed out, it doesn't make sense because there's no way for people to get from point A to point B. And so that was what I was trying to uplift, that there's parts of our kind of what the areas that we're looking at where we know we're trying to create that sort of density and those transit opportunities where I would be less open to in lieu fees and much more supportive of actually building inclusionary and making it. And then other places where it just, like Supervisor Anderson said, like it probably won't make sense. And, why would we strand two people in a apartment with no, access to transportation? And would, in those instances, that the in lieu fees do make more sense. So that was what I was trying to get at, but they did a better job. So I wanted to tie those pieces together.
All right, thank you very much. And so I'm just going to check in with the team to make sure you feel you have everything that you need from us to be able to come back in the winter on this item. If not, we're always available.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Yes, we do. We'll be coming in the winter with a VMT, and then we'll come in short order with this item.
Okay, fantastic. All right, with that, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Vargas, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Thank you again for all the hard work on this item. Appreciate you. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the clerk for the remainder of non-agenda public speaker.
Thank you, Chairwoman Vargas. We still have 20 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 4 individuals in person, and 16 requesting to speak by phone. For those that have requested to speak by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and again begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'd like to invite forward the first 3 individuals. Catherine Rhodes, Zora Fahim, and Samantha Prado.
I don't believe.
Give me 1 second. I'm so
thank
sorry.
you.
There you are. Go ahead and begin your comments when you're ready.
Wonderful. Catherine Rhodes, and I want to tell you a story about Mayor Todd Gloria. Back in the day, he used to say we could only have winter-only tents for the homeless. It has to be taken down every year. And I said, no, that's a lie. You can do it year-round. And so I went to the state and enforced him to do year-round tents. Now we have year-round tents. It's a miracle. The next thing he's trying to do, sabotage it, the homeless and the poor, is he's trying to close the Golden Hall, and he's trying to close a few of the different parking lots because what he says is they're temporary permits. Yes, they're temporary permits, but you can just renew them every year. The only person who's in charge of homeless shelters is fire marshal. Fire marshal, whatever the fire marshal says, you have to do, you have to do. We need like $9 million to keep the Golden Hall open. We need probably a few little $1 million to keep some of the parking lots open over in Balboa Park. You guys have the money. You have money in ARPA. I've been trying to go through your homeless department, and they basically don't return my calls. I have so many solutions for them. I can't get anything. So anyway, 49 days ago, the California Coastal Commission, W14A, approved Barracks H at Liberty Station. And Todd Gloria used to say that we couldn't have homeless on state tidelands, specifically Mission Bay and South Shore parking lot. And I said, no, that's a lie. Of course we can. And this proves that we can. So what it does, it opens up everything. It opens up all Mission Bay. We have Fiesta Island, Yanza Cove, South Shore parking lot. And then one thing I wanted to go with my councilperson, Tara Lawson-Reamer, is talk about the beautiful 1,000 spaces that we have at Silver Strand State Beach, where we could put homeless there right now. I know where the funding is. Please, I'm going to go to Tara Lawson-Reamer and ask for.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker.
This is for Honorable Supervisor Jim Desmond, who's not here, but I'm sure he can listen to this later. The horse that was emaciated, that laid in the mud without all of your animal control officers ending the suffering of this horse for more than an hour. This horse suffered. Based on equine experts, that horse resulted in that condition in a prolonged period of time. She did not even receive proper dental treatment. This took a long period of time, and the owner, Deborah Barkley, failed in providing providing medical care and proper care, which is actually illegal. Your animal control officer allowed Deborah Barkley to discard this emaciated horse with no necropsy. As a voting constituent in Desmond's district, it's top priority for me in regards to animal issues, my neighbors, and also equestrians. I'd like to put it on record that from District 1 all the way to District 5 is not doing anything to hold accountable or alleviate the suffering of animals in our district, in our county, actually. Mr. Desmond, your office meets with Animal Services and Public Safety Group for several hours, but your staff, for Shayna, and I have spoken for disappointed. Mr. Desmond, you represent us residents and equestrians, not Animal Services or Public Safety Group, and we need you to hear us. We believe that Supervisor Tara Larson-Reamer, Deputy District Attorney Eric Bodner, Kathleen Flannery, Andrew Strong, Ebony Shelton is aiding and abetting felony criminal animal cruelty. This gaslighting and disregard of all your constituents who are concerned about animal cruelty from District 1 to District 5 is resulting in the entire world looking at you all in shame for that. We believe you are allowing felony criminal animal cruelty in our county. Animals are suffering terribly in our county and you're doing nothing.
And can you please state your name for the record?
Zora Fahim.
Thank you very much. And Samantha Prado. Not seeing Samantha in the board chamber. We'll go ahead and call Audra forward. Allegedly Audra.
I mean, who knows? I mean, how do we really know what our name is, right? It's just what we're told. Anywho, my person uses the name Audra because that's, you know, what I've been told it is. It's interesting with this invasion and how intentional this has been, and I was hoping that Jim was here, but he's not. But to talk about the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, which rests on the principles and whatnot of the United Nations 2030 Sustainability Agenda, the United Nations, all of those things. And it's sad because this is all intentional and by design, and it's very dangerous and destructive to our community when these people are replacing us. That's why they're coming. And you have to understand that why would it not be the case? Like, they're incentivized to come, but they don't understand that they've been lied to. And it should disturb you guys that, you know, most of the women that are coming across are actually raped along the way. I find condoms that are discarded where these people are coming and being picked up by Border Patrol. And there are rape trees in Hakamba, Joel, right outside of town off of Heber Street, where they cut the Constantine wire at the top, and the cartel is bringing them across. And these are trees that have underwear and bras that have been set there as trophies for the rape that occurs. And it even happens to the children. And the fact that hundreds of thousands of children can go missing, and you don't care, Nora. It's sad, because you think that these people should just come. These children are being raped and murdered and used and abused, and ain't nobody care.
And we'll invite forward Consuelo to give non-agenda public comment.
Okay, so Consuelo, I'll start off with a compliment. Nora, I liked you more when you didn't speak. So, yeah. I guess you missed my name in your mouth because I don't know exactly what triggered you yesterday. Maybe it was the fact that I called out the fact that you are, in fact, wasting $41,000 a month of our money for security when there are people suffering all over the county that could undoubtedly use that for way more important things. And your divide and conquer, kick out Consuelo tactic backfired. Because the people who were in here, well, it ended up that we ended on hugs and love. One lady told me, "Girl, I thought you were gonna hit me." I said, "No way." It's frustrating only because a few people are paying attention. And when we are there speaking, it sounds like we're saying some of the most off-the-wall crazy things. But again, it's only because we're paying close attention that we receive the unwanted stepchild treatment. You can try to silence and bury the truth, but guess what? Truth always surfaces. Do your job, Nora. Stop being such a bully, especially to your coworkers. A bully with a title. Without a title, without the deputies, you're weak. You have no power. Reminder, you work for the people. You're paid by us. Reminder to the people watching, this isn't a spectator sport. Get involved. It's worth it. It's why these people get away with what they do.
Thank you. Your time is up. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Hi, my name is Kate Ione. I'm an animal rights activist. We believe that Public Safety Group and Department of Animal Services, Steve Lujan and Kathleen Flannery, are aiding and abetting felony criminal animal cruelty. Steve Lujan has no background in animal welfare, let alone horses, and he is making statements that are simply not true about the horses on Artesian Road. The horses on Artesian Road continue to be abused, neglected, and uncared for with no health care. County Board of Supervisors are failing our animals. Animals are suffering, and the County of Supervisors is doing nothing. Sarah Lawson-Remmer is the supervisor for this district, and that is also my voting district. And I will not be voting for her, and I will be telling my neighbors the same, because it's okay for humans to treat animals in such a cruel way. But if humans treat humans badly, then they're psychopaths or something. But it's okay for everyone to abuse animals. And we've come here time and time again to beg you guys to care. And it's time you start caring, because it's getting close to voting time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Lindy Green, and I would like to speak on the artesian horses issue. Animals cannot speak for themselves. They rely on humans to advocate for their well-being. The abuses against these horses have already been extensively documented and described by previous speakers. I don't need to re-itemize them here. What I am hearing is that nothing is being done, and it's being falsely reported that everything is okay. This is unacceptable. Animals experience discomfort and neglect the same way we would. The authorities need to stop lollygagging and ignoring animal welfare laws. Send these animals to sanctuary and rehome the dog too. Shout out to Supervisor Desmond again. Thank you for caring. You're definitely one of my heroes. And thank you for having given me the opportunity to speak once more.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon, Chair Vargas and Board of Supervisors. My name is Diane Grace, and I'm a parent, grandparent, and participate in my county's planning group. Yesterday at the Board of Supervisors meeting, item 6 recognized the role of social media in the youth mental health crisis. Another facet of social media is displayed there by marijuana businesses advertising, including the 5 county marijuana businesses already operating. As Marijuana Biz Daily, an industry newsletter, recently wrote, quote, TikTok often feels young, energetic, and fun. It is a fantastic way for cannabis companies to connect with their young audience, end of quote. Another message suggested that, quote, Instagram and TikTok are the undisputed marketing channels for those ages 5 to 35, reaching 60 and 70% of the market. Although social media isn't the only option for marijuana marketing, but it's by far one of the most effective, end of quote. Another suggestion, quote, marijuana businesses use Twitter to reach young audiences because it has much weaker sensors, end of quote. Unfortunately, to avoid detection, marijuana businesses have learned the best practices for circumventing restrictions and censors using clever abbreviation and slang that can elude boundaries, thus reaching their target audience, young people. We know that the county's marijuana storefronts are very active on these teen communication tools. I respectfully suggest that we do not need more county pot shops than we...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go ahead and go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Becky Rapp, and I'm a parent and a public health educator. And today, I'd like to share with you an article from Fox News this month titled Cannabis Hyperemesis Syndrome on the Rise. Cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, also known as CHS or spromiting, is an often debilitating condition that affects a growing number of marijuana users. Symptoms range from uncontrolled vomiting to having to call 911 because of severe abdominal pain. Extreme vomiting can often reach numbers of 20 to 24 times per day, leading to hospitalization. Dr. Ronit Lev, an emergency and addiction physician at Scripps Mercy Hospital and former chief medical officer of the White House of National Drug Control Policy, stated that it is not uncommon and, in fact, a daily diagnosis here in San Diego as patients come to the ED experiencing symptoms. Daily marijuana users surpass the number of daily alcohol users, and our emergency departments are feeling it. It's estimated that up to 20% of chronic marijuana users will experience CHS or spromiting. As a county that has permitted hot products, actual medical data must be shared with the public. Just because a product is sold does not mean it is safe to consume, and I urge you to invite Dr. Lev to come and present to this board, giving firsthand medical experience from treating patients with CHS and the impact it's having on already overloaded emergency departments. Dr. Lev would have been an excellent source of information when responding to the grand jury regarding the public health crisis we're experiencing with the permitting of high-potency THC products. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go to our next speaker.
Hello, Board of Supervisors. My name is Madison Rapp, and thank you for the chance to share my concern. I am hoping to help protect children and teens from the adverse consequences that come with increasing availability of marijuana products. Public opinion of marijuana is actually trending down. Gallup just did a poll that showed that only 43% of Americans now view marijuana favorably, down 10 points from 2022. And among young adults, it was down 7%. This shows that as people have more exposure to marijuana and know more people who are using it, they are seeing the negative consequences and recognizing the harms. I hope young people will get the message that vaping and using cigarettes and recreational cannabis are not helping them physically or mentally, and in fact cause many harms. marijuana use has been studied in youth and shown to have negative impacts on cognition and attention, and it's also associated with an increased risk of mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and psychosis. These are serious conditions that can have long-lasting effects on a young person's life and well-being. As a community, it is our duty to protect our youth from these risks. This includes discouraging underage marijuana use, educating parents and caregivers about the dangers, and providing support and resources for young people who may be struggling with substance use. Thank you for the chance to speak.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
All about lithium, which is used in EV batteries, unstable metals, causes spontaneous fires. Repeat, spontaneous. You can't put them out. Toxic fumes, mass evacuations. Oh, and the fire just reignited, draining fire department resources. And the response from the big bass biz, but it's better technology. Isn't that what they said about the Titanic? It's great that the government may finally be moving on fixing the broken U.S. treatment plant, but sewage isn't the only issue. Air pollution is killing Borderfields Park, and it's next to the TJ River Valley Park, the new gateway to hell or California, whichever comes first. Who, what, when, why, where, and how? These are 6 questions you should answer on the TJ River Valley sewage. And because this is an emergency threatening our health and safety within a 1 to 5 mile radius, you should be reporting on these every meeting. If you do not, you'll never fix the problem, only glossed over. This time, it's not their fault or our fault, but a joint effort. Sewage from Good Canyon, Mexico, and we can't pump it to the treatment plant because it's broken. They also find it offensive that months after you authorized air purifiers for sewage smell, you're raffling them off. That is shameful. They should go to the people who actually need them for medical reasons first, and not just be raffled off to anyone in a few zip codes. Air purifiers themselves aren't exactly miracle cure either. County website warns that they're most effective in the room where you...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go ahead and go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Megan Stewart, and as someone with experience in both public health and social work, I would like to express my strong opposition to the proposed expansion of marijuana retailers in the county. Recent developments in public opinion and safety data underscore the need to reconsider such expansions. According to a Gallup poll released this month, 54% of Americans now view marijuana as having a negative impact on society. This marks a significant shift from previous years, where opinions were more evenly divided. The poll reveals that a growing number of citizens no longer see marijuana as a harmless drug, with 51% acknowledging its negative effects on users. Concerns about public safety are also increasingly validated by recent studies. A 2023 report highlighted a staggering 475% increase in marijuana-related traffic accidents that required emergency treatment from the years 2010 to 2021. This alarming trend emphasizes the need to address the dangers of increased marijuana availability. May I respectfully suggest that you take into consideration these statistics as you discuss any plans for expanding marijuana retailers in San Diego. Let us focus on strategies that prioritize the well-being of our community rather than rush programs that have the impact to harm community members. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. This is Ann Riddle. I called in for
non-agenda public comment to thank you for providing this opportunity for those of us who live so very far away from downtown San Diego. And in my case, and probably others, I'm at work, working on curriculum that we will use for our after-school tutoring program at elementary schools, where the tutoring is provided by high school students. This has provided me a great deal of experience with what's going on with these two age groups that I've been able to share at Board of Supervisors, and it's been important to me since it's such a firsthand look. Also, I'm currently serving as the Vice President of Legislation for our PTA Council, and so I have access to a great deal of news briefs from the parent community that I also can share. And yesterday, I had an opportunity to talk about my experience with the adjudication and incarceration experience for those of us who found their loved ones involved with drugs. These real-life experiences that a wide variety of us can share with you, I think, expands the conversation regarding what we feel and see down at the Board of Supervisors, so you can have a broader idea when you run into opposition, and it gives you some idea of where maybe that is coming from. Regarding the opportunity I had to speak yesterday about our loved one's experience with the arrest, adjudication, incarceration for his drug use, I did want to say, although it was marijuana involved, he did not go to prison for marijuana, because at that time marijuana, and still continues, was an infraction, and no one went to prison here in California for marijuana. So I wanted to put that mythology to rest. And what I noticed regarding the process, it had far less to do with race and far more to do with money and social status. And for those of us who had no money and the lower...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go ahead and go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Kathleen Lippett. I've been a drug policy researcher for many years, and on behalf of youth, young adults, my local and district planning groups, the public is confused and misinformed about drugs prescribed, over-the-counter, licit, illicit, legitimized, or normalized by the state and local governments that have pursued revenues, abandoning their responsibility to be unbiased resources of evidence-based research. Both the risk and the benefits profiles of a drug or drug policy are necessary to make informed choices. I appreciated an earlier comment regarding the importance of conflicts of interest. Regulatory agencies have been influenced by donations intended to shape their professional opinions. Dr. Bertha Madras, Harvard Medical School of Psychobiology and renowned brain researcher, recently reported how her work is challenged by the marijuana and psychedelic industries, having invaded medical societies, professional associations, hospitals, and universities. Along with my colleagues, I continue to make every effort to provide current and unbiased information to inform county drug policies. The evidence of the nexus between high THC marijuana, mental health problems, expanded drug use, emergency visits, poisonings, homelessness, lowered IQ, academic failure, child endangerment, violence, child abuse, political corruption, cartels, workplace injuries, and environmental destruction continue. The silence on the part of this board majority and the collateral damage from supporting the marijuana industry is deafening as well as inexplicable, given the well-established documentation and...
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hello, this is Kelly McCormick. I'm a public health educator focusing on youth substance use prevention. Yesterday, I spoke about the county's response to the grand jury report called Cannabis in San Diego, How's It Going? The county's response is superficial at best, especially with regard to the health impacts on school-aged children. There is abundant evidence that marijuana use is harmful to their health. Rady Children's Hospital continues to see an increase in child poisonings, mostly due to the consumption of edibles that look like candy or other kid-friendly snacks. Dr. Natalie Laub of Rades says the number of children hospitalized for marijuana toxicity has quadrupled since the recreational legalization of marijuana in 2016. Last year, Dr. Laub told the San Diego Union Tribune that over 50% of these children are admitted to the hospital and over 10% go to the intensive care unit. Some are experiencing seizures and not breathing. As I mentioned yesterday, the most recent data from the San Diego County Cannabis Public Health Initiative shows the number of marijuana-related hospital emergency department visits county-wide averages more than 36 a day. Cannabis-induced psychosis is one of the top causes. What I intended to add is that there's a strong correlation between marijuana use and completed suicides or suicidal thoughts among teens and young adults. You can find this in studies by NIDA, the National Institute on Drug Abuse, among others. According to a 2020 report by the San Diego County Medical Examiner, 39% of young people under the age of 25 who took their own lives tested positive for THC. Wherever they are obtaining marijuana, we must look at the impact of marijuana use normalization and the aggressive marketing campaigns aimed at the young. Please consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to our next caller.
Hey, it's Truth Nora. Guess what? Your bad behavior made ABC News last night. Congrats. And I want to repeat my point yesterday. I don't care what stupid things people say during their own speaker time, but the bullying of speakers while they speak or when they leave the podium is never okay. Yet that is what you, Nora, enabled yesterday. Moving on, I'm glad Jim gave the abused horses on Artesian Road deception update today because Andrew Strong was out of breath, stuttering, and nervous to read his script last Wednesday meeting. Strong said the horses are sustainable, and then he said they're in good condition while being coached by Tara. Later, Ebony claimed the horses are in good condition. But sustainable and good are two completely different conditions. And where's the evidence? If County Animal Services went out to the network's property twice in 1 month and a total of 18 times this year, where's the report that Jim decided to kowtow out of? Where's a photo? Where's a single shred of evidence? Why is it okay for those who've had animals die in a neglectful manner to have their own vet they paid for be the information the county relies on? That's a conflict of interest. Jim, why is it okay for someone at DAS to inspect the condition of animals that have died from 50 yards away? Is it because Craig Netwig and Deborah Barkley were both accused of pointing guns at people, including a CBS News crew? How did horses that were skin and bones and in absolutely deplorable and disgustingly unsanitary conditions suddenly recover that quickly? They didn't even have shelter. And if everything's all good, then why did the county waste so much money repeatedly going back to the Netwig property? Then for the county's alleged nationwide search, who did they pick as the new DAS director? Von Maurice, a guy that last year had allegations by a grand jury that the Stanislaus Animal Shelter that he was formerly in charge of returned $3.1 million despite the shelter needing more vets, while they euthanized 592 animals in only 1 year. Under Vaughn's watch, the shelter also had a backlog of 400 to 2,000 calls or emails waiting for a response. This is exactly the type of unethical character I expect the county to choose to continue the lies. But ending on a positive, Joel, I made you literally laugh out loud yesterday. That's a trophy.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Chairwoman Vargas, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this afternoon.
With that, this meeting is adjourned.
The board will now recess into closed session to continue consideration of those matters listed under item 24 on yesterday's agenda. If there are any reportable actions, they will be reported out after the conclusion of closed session today. The next regular meeting of the board will take place on Tuesday, September 10th at 9 a.m.
Bring your lunch. Sorry.